lead and leads the National League and runs back. Jack Clark spent 9 years with the San Francisco Giants, but he has found a home in the uniform of the St. Louis Cardinals. Clark has 17 home runs today. That's as many as the Cardinals had on this date, all of 1986. So two fellows who have changed uniforms and are thriving by it. Andre Dawson leading the Cubs. Jack Clark and the Cardinals will go head-to-head today on the Game of the Week.
National Broadcasting Company, now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today, from Busch Memorial Stadium, it's the Chicago Cubs versus the St. Louis Cardinals. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller Brewing Company, sole sponsor of the U.S. Olympic Training Centers. By your Toyota dealer and the reliable Camry sedan and wagon. Who could ask for anything more? Toyota. By Fran, Bendix, and Autolite. Quality products from Allied Automotive. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. When car-caring people reach for the best, they reach for Quaker State Motor Oil.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Welcome to Busch Stadium in St. Louis, the home of the St. Louis Cardinals, who won the division in 1985, finished 3rd last year, and is out in front by 4 games this year. The question is, how come the vast improvement of the Cardinals with a ball club that's beaten up in the pitching staff? No better person to talk to than the White Rat himself, Whitey Herzog. Let's go to Joe.
Okay, Vin. Whitey, your ball club has done a complete turnaround. How do you explain it?
Well, a complete turnaround in what respect? I think last year was a complete turnaround. We thought we were going to hit last year, and we didn't hit. We hit the previous 3 years, but last year was an off year, and that's going to happen once in a while. People ask me why we didn't make any changes. We didn't make any changes till we got Pena because we thought we would be a pretty good offensive ball team.
There you are, Vin.
Well, let's face it, Whitey Herzog is locked in goal solid in long afternoon to go to, and we'll have the starting lineups and more, all coming up right after this.
Hey, guys, great barbecue.
Yeah, plenty of Miller Lite.
Have a can, Rodney.
This one's empty.
Mighty fine playing, Jim.
Wasn't me. Something tells me we're not alone in the universe.
Hey, you're right, Numa.
I wonder what they want.
Probably our Miller Lite because it tastes great.
Let's fill it.
Hey, say, look!
Oh, Mickey!
We're doomed. I'll tell you, we don't have no respect. So this is Earth, huh? Where were the girls? Wow! Well, what a pack of handsome guys.
No matter where you're from, there's only one light beer, Miller Lite.
I tell you, it's not easy being us, huh? Oh, what a crowd! What a crowd!
Base, and Jerry Mumphrey, who had over 1,500 at-bats as a Cardinal, now with the Cubs in left field. Andre Dawson will be in right field, and Leon Durham will be at first base. Jody Davis behind the plate. Keith Moreland is at third base. Sean Dunston, the shortstop. Dave Martinez will be in center field, and the pitcher, Cy Young Award winner, Rick Sutcliffe.
The defense, and we'll take a look at the defense now. Coleman, McGee, and Morris in the outfield. And just want to kind of pre-warn you, the artificial surface, very spongy, a lot of high bounces. and we might see some tricks out there, although the Cardinal outfielders should be pretty familiar with it. Pendleton, Ozzie Smith, the magician at shortstop, and Clark in the infield, Pena behind the plate, Tunnell is the pitcher. And we'll see some different catching stances with Pena, Ben.
I should say so. And of course, Tony coming over from Pittsburgh to St. Louis and was on the disabled list for 6 weeks. So he's pretty frisky now with a chance to play. Tony Pena behind the plate. Talking about coming over from Pittsburgh, that's the story on the right-hander, Lee Tunnell. Tunnell is 2-1. No record against Chicago. 1-2 lifetime. This will be his 5th start since he was called up the middle of May from Louisville. If he is on his game, he will throw a lot of strikes. He is basically a control pitcher. He does not overpower people. On the 7th of June, he lasted 3 innings and was not around very long. He gave up 6 earned runs and 11 hits against the Cubs.
Just to keep that train of thought, Andre Dawson, talking to him, I said, what runs through your mind Tunnell is pitching? He said, well, he'll be pitching me outside. He'll be throwing strikes, as you just said. He'll be throwing some sinkers. So I think I can react quick enough, but with 2 strikes, I'll probably try to go the opposite field. It's kind of interesting that even before the game starts, how good hitters always program themselves.
You know, they will really have to program, and they'll also have to tune out the weather factor, because the temperature down on the rug is over 100 degrees. And, of course, it'll get worse than that, I'm sure. You can see where the 120 mark is, so it's about 105. And even with an umbrella and cologne and tissues, well, it's just plain hot in St. Louis.
That it is. And it was interesting in the Cardinal clubhouse. Vince Coleman, Willie McGee, Ozzie Smith, it looked like a bad chemistry class. They were getting all kinds of concentrates, I would call it, and Gatorade and everything, and mixing it up for this heat.
Yeah.
A lot of liquids.
There is tremendous interest naturally in the surge here in St. Louis, and you can see the average attendance. Los Angeles at 39, the Cardinals at 36, and the Mets 34. Now, in this great rivalry, the cities of Chicago and St. Louis are roughly 275 miles apart, and it is a great rivalry. The Cardinals leading the division by 4 over the Cubs, and the Cardinals have done it basically by beating the Cubs. Chicago has lost 7 of 10. So the difference going head-to-head with the Cardinals is the difference in the standings. The all-star second baseman, Ryne Sandberg, leading it off. Sandberg, a hot hitter for better than 2 weeks now, hitting .313, and when he gets on, he scores. He's averaged a run a game for better than 2 weeks. 1-1.
And talking about catching stances, there you see it. Tony Pena looks like a bad ad for a chiropractor when it gets down there. He really gives a low target. Look at this.
Little roller up along third, foul, and the count 1-2. For the Cubs, and they're fully aware of it, they have lost 2 straight. The Cubs are the only team in the National League this year not to have lost 3 straight, and Gene Michael has Sutcliffe out there today to try and make sure they don't do it today. The only team in the American League that hasn't lost 3 in a row, the blazing hot Toronto Blue Jays, who have won 10 straight. And that takes care of Sandberg.
And that's exactly where Tunnell has to pitch to be effective. And look where this 2-strike pitch is. Pena sets up outside, and he just nails it right there. Perfect pitch.
So we have 1 away in the first inning. Sandberg goes back to the shelter of the dugout, and the batter will be Jerry Mumphrey. Mumphrey, a switch hitter who had over 1,500 at-bats as a Cardinal, hits it foul down the left field line, out of play. 0-1. Mumphrey, at least to the eye, would appear to be a bigger man than in those days with St. Louis. And one big difference, he used to be a blazing threat on the baselines, but no longer. He whacks it to right field. John Morris, a full turn to make the catch. Now that's a big league outfielder's play.
Well, that ball was sinking. He thought it was over his head, and he was going to play it close to the warning track, and watch him make the complete turn. He's already made it by our picture, and he did make a big league play. It was a sinking line drive, but he made a complete turn.
You can understand now why Whitey Herzog inserts John Morris in the outfield for defensive purposes late in the game. That was a hooking, sinking line drive, and he stayed with it. So 2 down, and now here's the Chicago story so far. Andre Dawson. There's not very much you could say about Andre now that hasn't already been said. An incredible start of the year. Little roller to third. Pendleton at the bag, and he has the arm to get him. So the Cubs are out in order, 1, 2, 3. And at the end of half an inning, Cubs nothing, Cardinals coming up. Here are the Cardinals offensively. Vince Coleman, followed by Ozzie Smith and Tommy Herr. Jack Clark with Willie McGee and Terry Pendleton. John Morris, Tony Pena, and then Lee Tunnell. And on the mound, an 8-game winner, Rick Sutcliffe. He was the first in the National League to win 5, first to win 6, first to win 7, first to win 8, trying to become the first National League pitcher to win 9. Brett Saberhagen over in the American League is 11-1. Sutcliffe, the Cy Young winner in 1984. That year, he didn't win his 9th until the middle of July. And the amazing Vince Coleman. Boy, what a spearhead he is. Coleman, a 9-game hitting streak, has been on base by hit or walk in each of the last 41 straight. Comebacker. Ozzie Smith will be coming up, and for the moment, let's go back to the fall of 1985. Ozzie Smith in the LCS against Tom Niedenfuhr of the Dodgers. He shocked everybody in the baseball world with a home run. Ozzie has not hit a home run since. Well over 700 at-bats since that fateful day that sent Niedenfuhr and the Dodgers to the deck. Ball 1 to Ozzie Smith. Ozzie, a remarkable player for many, many reasons. You immediately think of his glove. But he also has timely base hits. Little slap foul down the left field line.
This is on the ball that Coleman hits. Sutcliffe in good position to make the play. And now he knows he's got it. Easy play. And one thing he says, hey, keeping that guy off the base is my biggest job today.
1-1 to Ozzie Smith. Ball 2. He's the toughest man to strike out in the National League. He strikes out about, once every 23 at-bats. What's important about Ozzie is the RBIs he drives in without hitting a home run. You know, he led the National League in RBIs without hitting a home run last year. And he's leading them right now. He has 31 RBIs without a home run. Fly ball into left field, and it'll be Jerry Mumphrey.
Batting third, number 28, second baseman, Tom Herr.
There is the defense. Mumphrey, Martinez, and Dawson. That's one of the things Gene Michael talked about. He needs speed in the outfield with the artificial surface. Moreland, Dunston, Sandberg, Durham in the infield. Jody Davis, who's had a little bit of a throwing slump, but he can throw. Make no mistake about that. Davis on the plate and Sutcliffe on the mound.
This is June the 13th as Tommy Herr gets in, and this is a rather important day in Chicago Cub history. First of all, Rick Sutcliffe on this day in 1984 was acquired along with George Frazier, Ron Hasse from Cleveland, for Mel Hall, Joe Carter, and pitchers Don Schulte and Darrell Banks. 1 year ago today, Gene Michael took over as the Cubs manager. Line to left, but it's at Mumphrey. So the Cardinals fail to score, and at the end of an inning, the Cubs nothing and the Cardinals nothing. You can see Andre Dawson toweling off in the shadows. Up at home plate, Leon Durham. Andre Dawson will be 33 in July. The Cubs were leading the Astros 11-1, and look at this play. And they got his philosophy on how to play as Durham takes a strike. Somebody said to Dawson after the game, why would you break your neck like that when you were leading 11-1? And Dawson very simply said, because the ball was in play. Leon hitting .303. The hitters certainly helped out the pitchers in the first inning. In this heat, no one was thinking about it. Tunnel retired the side on 7 pitches. Sutcliffe used only 8. In there, 1-2. Lee Tunnel, 2-1 with the league. No record with the Cubs. 1-2 lifetime from his days with Pittsburgh. In the dirt. Durham is on a tear. He has homered in 4 straight games. That's the second time in his career he's had a roll like that. He's number 9 on the Cubs all-time list behind Andy Pafko. Leon Durham. So Lee Tunnel picks up his second strikeout. He has retired 4 in a row. And the batter now will be Jody Davis.
Looked like a real good fastball. That Tunnel turned loose right there. He kind of slid it away from him. Durham had a good cut, just didn't connect.
Jody Davis at the plate. 4-1, 1-0. In his career, Jody has been much more of a home run hitter at Wrigley Field than on the road. And he had one of the strange games of the year when the Cubs beat Houston 22-7. He had 1 at bat. He had 1 hit. It was a double. He scored 5 runs, and he did not have a run batted in. The discrepancy, the fact that he walked 4 times in that game. He hits a fly ball to center. Willie McGee. 2 down.
That's one of the things that Whitey talks about in this ballpark. It's hard to hit one out of here. It's also hard to hit one in the alleys and hard to hit one by the shortstop. And you can see why pitchers have so much confidence here, because Cardinal defense is all over this ballpark.
Those are the dimensions, and actually the center field dimension is wrong. It is 414 to center field here at Busch Stadium, the deepest center field in the National League. There, that's the graveyard of fly balls. Fouled away off to the right and out of play. Boston leading Detroit 1-0. That's Stanley and Petrie in that. 2 out in the second inning. No score here. One of the great rivalries in baseball. The Cubs and the Cardinals. Ground ball to shortstop. The Wizard of Oz, and that's that. So Tunnel has retired 6 in a row. 1 ball was hit hard, and at the end of an inning and a half, no score. When you read that or hear him say it, it doesn't sound right. How come I don't feel that way? Then when you look at the cold stats, you can see what's bothering him when he said, I'm striking out like crazy. Jack has 2 home runs against Rick Sutcliffe this year. The Cardinals have 37 home runs, and Clark has 17 of them. Strike 1, 0-1.
He's closed his stance a little bit more, knowing he can get around on the inside pitch and drive the ball to right center field. With the center field camera, you can really see that closed stance.
He also said because of closing it, that's one reason why he thinks he has been striking out a lot. Hits a breaking ball foul. The most strikeouts for Clark in a year, 95. So he's well on his way to that. You have to remember, too, that Jack Clark has been hurt a lot. He's missed on an average of 85 games a year each of the last 3 years. 2 years he didn't play more than 65. And of course last year he had torn ligaments in his right thumb, and they tell us it still hurts him very, very much. Boy, what a May he had. 9 home runs and 35 RBIs in the month of May.
You can bet me that thumb doesn't hurt as much as Eric Davis does to him. Those two catches he made off him.
Let's take a look at that closed stance. This might be one reason. He might be having trouble judging that outside pitch.
It's something new, and if they hit that outside corner, I'll tell you, where he threw that pitch would be tough with any stance. That was low outside, Hall of Fame.
So that's 56 times Jack has bitten the dust on strikeouts, and the batter now will be Willie McGee. McGee with 2 doubles and a triple last night and 3 RBIs, and he's blazing hot. I would think if you were a hitter, Sutcliffe would be a little easy to at least time to measure. If there was ever a mechanical man delivery, it is the delivery of Rick Sutcliffe. You can almost count. It's like dance steps. 1, 2, 3, release. Curveball.
Except they fly to the ball. And that's the difference. And he does hook the ball behind him, which is a bit of a distraction. He has 4 pitches. They're all basic. Fastball, curve, slider, and a change of speed, which he controls. And his control is his biggest asset.
1 ball, 1 strike, and 1 out to McGee. No score in the second inning. Slap foul down the line. This is a very important series, particularly for the Cubs. They have lost 7 out of 10 to the Cardinals, the team they're trying to catch. And after tomorrow, the Cardinals and the Cubs won't play each other again till September the 18th.
I think, Vin, just to emphasize what you said, you can watch Sutcliffe, and as he hooks the ball behind him and starts forward, that's when he gives a little dance step, like right here.
Just outside. To use the parlance of the trade, hooking the ball. Watch the way Rick bends the arm.
Right behind him. Right there.
Right there.
Now he'll kind of jump at you a little bit here. Right there. And that's the timing device for the body. But again, then the speed of the pitch is the thing that gets you as he just shakes off his sign.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Just did get a piece of that to foul it off. So it's still 2-2.
That's the thing McGee did last year, was chase that bad ball out of the zone. This one's about on the ground. It's a curveball. Look at here.
He just did get it, too. So McGee is still alive at the plate. Last year, by the middle of September, it was odd for him. His slugging average was lower than the batting average of 85. That's the kind of a year he had in the championship year of 85, and he would appear to be back on that kind of a beam again. Got him, and he just blew it by him. 2 strikeouts for Rick Sutcliffe. Terry Pendleton coming up. Sutcliffe's high in strikeouts this year. He struck out 7, and he's done that 4 times. So with 2 out in the second inning, now he'll take a shot at Terry Pendleton. Pendleton in May had a 19-game hitting streak. He's hit 9 of his last 11. He has been playing great ball. He's kind of an Iron Man. He played in 159 games last year, and he's the only Cardinal player to start and play in all games this year.
I tell you, Sutcliffe is throwing hard, and when you can hear that ball pop into that pillow that Davis is using and over this crowd noise, you got to be throwing.
But that was last year. By the way, when McGee struck out, it was the 1,000th strikeout in Sutcliffe's career. 1-0. Look a little off speed. 2 balls, no strikes. All of Sutcliffe's problems began because he runs a lot. He hurt one thing, started to favor that, and hurt the other. High drive into right field. Andre Dawson going back at the track, at the wall, gone. That is Terry Pendleton's 4th home run of the year, and the 2nd that he has hit as a left-handed batter. For Rick Sutcliffe, that would be the 9th home run that he has allowed.
You just saw the swing. It was a high curveball, and you get that curveball that high, you're really asking for it. And if there was ever a classic picture of a batter hitting a pitcher's mistake, there you saw it.
So Terry Pendleton gets the Cardinals out in front 1-0. And the pitch now to John Morris is low, ball 1, 1-0. Pendleton 2 from either side of the plate. For the Cardinals, a home run in St. Louis is headline news. Would you believe that's only the 15th home run that the Cardinals have hit at home this year? Two balls and no strikes. Hard ground ball to Sandberg. And that will take care of Morris and the Cardinals. But they get one on the home run. 1-0 St. Louis. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Sean Dunston, Dave Martinez, and Rick Sutcliffe coming up in the 3rd inning with the Cardinals leading the Cubs 1-0. Dunston has hit in 14 of the last 17. In fact, he's hit home runs in 2 of his last 3. Sean batting .246 overall. Pendleton shortens up, plays him just about at the bag at 3rd. Breaking ball away, 0-1.
That was a good hard slider. You see a ball break like that, you always think of why would a guy think that was an optical illusion. That thing really snapped.
It's interesting watching Tunnel too, Joe, the way he keeps the ball outside of these hitters.
That's his style.
Missed. It is not only his style, but one of the many theories given as to why there are so many home runs is the fact that the pitchers today are not coming inside nearly as much as they should. I know I was told that Hal Lanier, for instance, chewed out his staff for not coming inside to hitters. And of course, it follows anytime you see a game, it seems like if the pitcher does come inside to the hitter wants to fight him.
Fight him.
Yeah.
You know, for Fernando, that's the story on Valenzuela. They say he's not coming inside like he used to.
2 balls, 1 strike. And that's whacked into center. Base hit for Sean Dunston. It brings up a story that is not apocryphal, where Jim Leland of Pittsburgh told Jose De Leon, you're going to have to pitch inside. And De Leon said, you mean I've been traded to Houston? Well, no. But you really don't see the knockdown pitch, the way inside pitch very often at all. Dave Martinez, the left-hand hitting center fielder, coming up. He's been getting on base a lot. And in his number 8 slot, he has Dunston at first. Nobody out in the 3rd. Cardinals leading the Cubs 1-0.
You notice a difference in Pena's stance now. He's ready to fire and loves to throw. He'll throw at any time, but he's not sitting down and all tied up in a figure 4 like he is with no one on base.
They're keeping an eye on Sean Dunston. Dunston has stolen 8 out of 9. 1-0. Dunston faking off the bag at first, and off the rubber is Tunnel.
Michael uses a theory of trying to pick a pitch and pick a situation. I mean by that, if he thinks the pitcher's going to go with a curveball, he'll run his man.
And a balk. Yep, he called it. That is the 4th balk charge against Lee Tunnel. And to be honest, I think I was calling it before Jerry Crawford.
You could see it all the way. His left shoulder. That was a blatant balk. That should be a BB.
Yep. Tunnel in trying to hold a man on. If you watch him, he just didn't stop. He didn't do anything.
His shoulder just came right around. He just saw him looking all the way.
A 1 ball and no strikes to Martinez. The tying run is now at second base. Cardinals leading 1-0 in the
He
third.
just goes right into it. Whoop, right there.
Back 1-1. You know, on May the 6th of this year, the Cardinals and the Cubs had a West Coast trip. At the time, they were only a half a game apart. But combined, they went 13-5 in California, and that's opened up the gap between St. Louis, Chicago, and then the rest of the division. When they came home, the Cubs swept Houston, and the Cardinals swept Cincinnati. That put them out in front, and since that time, the Cardinals now have opened it up to 4 games. 1-1 to Dave Martinez. Off speed, he missed with the changeup, and the count 2 balls, 1 strike. The only run of the game, if you joined us a little late, Terry Pendleton hit one into the right center field seats. And now the Cubs trying to come back on a single by Dunston, and a balk moves him to second. On deck, Rick Sutcliffe, who is a pretty fair hitting pitcher. Now Tunnel wants to talk to Pena, so we have some time out.
That can really wear on a pitcher because Tunnel has not been sure of the signs. Obviously, with the man on second base, Pena's been switching them. And when you have to stand out there in that heat on a day like today, and you're not sure, and you're concentrating on trying to get the right sign, it's got to take a little edge off your pitches. And that's what you don't want to do, and that's what Pena went out there to do, is to simplify it and get it going.
2 balls, 1 strike. And he missed with a breaking ball, a slow hook, ball 3. 3-1. And there's a shot up the middle, base hit. Here comes Dunston to score to tie it up, 1-1. In this great rivalry, they told us that about 20,000 St. Louisans went to Chicago last weekend. It would appear as if 20,000 Chicagoans are here today.
At least 20,000.
You know, we were talking about the great rivalry. Since 1900, including last night, the Cubs have won 43 more games than the Cardinals, going head-to-head. But an even better or closer rivalry, would you believe, since 1900, the Dodgers and the Cardinals, the Dodgers have won 8 more games since 1900. There goes the runner. Easy steal.
Martinez could have held up a flag saying, "I'm going." Tunnel just was reluctant to throw over there. He's got a tremendous jump. Pena does everything and really makes a hard throw, but it's not even close. Tunnel just gave him just a token look.
So Martinez stealing second. He's 3 out of 4. Now Sutcliffe around to bunt and takes high. We mentioned that Sutcliffe is a pretty good hitter. He has 4 hits, a couple of doubles, 3 RBIs. Mike Rourke is going out to the mound. Sutcliffe also has 3 home runs in his career, although none so far this year.
I asked him to describe himself as a hitter. He said, "I'll not get cheated." Now, he's talking to his third base coach while Mike Rourke was out there, because Tunnel's had a couple things happen that are very unnerving. Number one, the balk. That got to him. And then the confusion on the signs where he wasn't sure and wasn't really concentrating on his pitches, more getting the signals. that had to get on him, and you could see it paid off for the Cubs with Martinez stealing second base. And all they're trying to do now is, hey, settle down and be yourself, because this inning he hasn't been. And we saw that shot of Whitey with his head down. What managers don't like is when you score a run, to have that other team come back and score a run to tie or go ahead.
You know, they're talking to Tunnel about holding base runners on. It would certainly be to the advantage of Tony Pena, who has thrown out only one base runner in 12 attempted steals. The bunt by Sutcliffe is a good one. He laid down a poached egg. So the sacrifice worked, and Martinez moves over to third. So Sutcliffe, a good hitter, does his job, moves his man along, and now Ryan Sandberg will come up and try and break the tie.
Boy, and that's a double reward, because he gets the man over, and now he goes into the dugout where it's cool. Sandberg will take a little bit of time getting up there to give Sutcliffe a chance to cool off a bit.
Last year, the Cubs had the worst record in the National League on turf. They just couldn't win a tip-off that they were not fast enough. This year they've won 12 and only lost 5 on the rug, so they've improved dramatically. 1-1 third inning. On the corner, 0-1. 1 out on the bunt by Sutcliffe. And that comes as a shock for Prince Valiant to see that he has not been producing with runners in scoring position. 0-1. Breaking ball fouled away. 0-2.
The artificial surface is what really made Gene Michael realize he didn't have any speed in the outfield. That drubbing he took from the Phillies, he said balls were dropping in all over. And I said to myself, hey, I got to get some speed in the outfield. And that's when he put Moreland at third base. And he's got some guys in there who take advantage of the artificial surface when they're at bat. And that's the difference in the record.
Matthews not playing. Out in right field, Andre Dawson, Brian Diaz, Bob Denier, Dave Martinez, giving them that speed they needed. And you had better play well on AstroTurf if you play in the National League East. When you think about it, only the Cubs and the Mets have grass in the Eastern Division. And 36 of your 45 road games in the division will be played on turf. Therefore, if you're going to win in the National League East, you have to be fast, because you're going to play so much on the rug. That's the first time he's come inside and he missed. 2-2. First time today, and this would be the 10th hitter in the third inning.
And what that pitch does is back Sandberg a little bit off the plate. It's very simple. Half the plate is to the hitter, half the plate is to the pitcher. But if the hitter crowds the plate, he takes it away from the pitcher, and you have to move him back. He's set up to go outside if he chooses.
2-2. Breaking ball hit slowly to third. Pendleton is going to first base, and he pulls Clark off the bag. Sandberg colliding with Clark, landed heavily on the rug, and a signal from first base, and evidently he's hurting. Jimmy Snyder waving to the bench. The run is in to make it 2-1 in favor of the Cubs, but Sandberg landed awkwardly, trying to avoid a collision with Jack Clark after the high throw by Pendleton. It'll be an error charged to Pendleton. A run batted in for Sandberg, but he picks it up the hard way.
And you can see the concern. Sandberg, a franchise player. Clark, when he leaped, kicked his left foot out. I just wonder if that was what nicked Sandberg. But he hit that turf very hard.
Well, if we can crank up the tape machine, maybe we can see exactly what happened on the collision with Clark. Here we go. Here's the ground ball to Pendleton. He's going to make a hurried off-balance throw, jumping in the air. So it's going to be high. Now let's watch. There's Clark. There's the left knee.
That's what did it.
And the left foot going by.
Yep.
Yep. Sandberg, evidently, when he was clipped by Clark's foot, that caused him to twist his right ankle. It wasn't the foot that hurt him, but it did knock him off balance. Watch. keep an eye on the right ankle. There it is. It skidded right over the top of the bag. Did you see that? That's how he hurt himself. When he was hitting the bag, instead of hitting and taking a normal stride, his right foot skidded right across the bag, and he twisted the ankle. A damaging blow to the Chicago Cubs. So the Cubs playing a game they feel they must win, even though it is so early. Paul Noche will come into the game and run for Sandberg. And when I see Sandberg leaving, and you realize how important he is to the Cubs, I think of the great George Willine, the wonderful columnist, who said Cub fans are 90% scar tissue.
Right.
And now you see the Cubs 4 back and losing the valuable Sandberg.
You know, speaking of great lines, Vin, I'd like to correct something that I've been getting credit for, but Bob Verdi of the Chicago Tribune a couple years ago said the Cubs, in describing them, were like Rush Street, a lot of singles and no action. And that was picked up in one of those books that they write with a bunch of quotes, and they gave me credit for it. And in Sports Illustrated this week, the writer, I'm sure that's where he got it, but it was Bob Verdi's line and not mine.
All right, now watch the right foot of Ryne Sandberg when it hits the bag right here. Watch it now. It'll skid, turn into the dirt, and that's when he twisted the ankle.
Great
Boy,
shot,
he
guys.
could have broken that, and the cameramen did a great job. Jerry Mumphrey a strike, and the count 0-1. Paul Noche at first. 2 runs in for the Cubs, leading 2-1. Mumphrey hit that hooking, sinking line drive on which John Morris made a fine catch in the first inning. And on deck is Andre Dawson. Noche held on by Clark. Off speed in there for a strike. 0-2. By the way, on that slow roller up along third base, not that it will make Sandberg feel any better, the official scorer has now reversed and said give him a base hit. High fly ball down the left field line, peeling foul, and this one will land untouched in the bullpen. I would guess they have 50,000 here today.
These Cardinal fans, Vin, I think maybe a bit spoiled. Coleman was way over in left center field, but if it drops within the playing field, it should be caught, and they're getting used to it. And why not when you have guys like Coleman and McGee? If it stays in the park, they do usually catch it. See how far he is.
0-2, the count of Jerry Mumphrey. Tunnel has already been victimized by committing a balk. For Tunnel, the 4th balk and the 8th turned in by the Cardinals. They had only 13 balks charged against them all last year. The big thing, the opponents were the ones committing the balks.
Tony Pena loves to throw that ball, and that's one of those plays that happens only if he catches the ball. And he's got the runner diving back. He threw that from his knees, so it wasn't that accurate to throw, but if nothing else, it'll cut down the lead.
So Andre Dawson coming up. The difference for Andre Dawson in playing with Chicago, he will play 114 games on the grass this year. With Montreal, he would have played only 42. He will also play 106 day games more. That's twice as many as any other team. So that's why he wanted to play so desperately in Chicago, to play on grass, play in the daytime, and his numbers certainly show you that it was a great move. Noche goes, a comeback at a Tunnel, and that's the inning. So the Cubs get 2 on 3 hits, a balk and a stolen base. The end of 2.5, 2-1 Chicago. Cubs leading 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the third inning. And it'll be Tony Pena, then Lee Tunnell, and Vince Coleman. Pena, who had torn ligaments in the thumb, so he was sidelined for 6 weeks, and he's playing catch-up. He has a home run, 12 RBIs, hitting .234. When the deal was made with Pittsburgh, a lot of people felt that the Cardinals had really gotten themselves a superstar and had not dealt anybody away. But several things have happened. That's a strike. I think when the Cardinals made the deal that involved Andy Van Slyke, they felt that Jim Lindemann was going to be the right fielder, and he didn't cut it. So part of the trade already did not work. Van Slyke is playing very well for Pittsburgh. Mike LaValliere is like a gold glove for the Pirates. He is just catching great. Andy Van Slyke is playing very well. And then for good measure, Mike Dunn, the kid pitcher who went over in the deal, has won a game. So it's like any trade. It takes a long time before you can really say that one team has done better than the other. LaValliere hitting .300. Van Slyke playing a lot. Dunn was the kid who was lost in the excitement in New York. He was the acolyte the night that Dwight Gooden returned for the Mets. 1-2, the count to Tony Pena. Fouled away. What a cut.
He takes a cut. He doesn't get cheated. And of course, even for a while there, he couldn't hold that bat. The bat was always flying out of his hand. But watch this. Nothing else. Every bone in your body is now loose. He really goes around with it.
He is an exuberant player, to say the least. I say one thing, though. In the old days, in a small ballpark, he would now be flat on his back. Well, he just wouldn't tolerate a swing like that in a little ballpark.
He could expect to be that way, yes.
Yeah.
He wouldn't need an invitation. He would be down.
1-2. We'll see how Sutcliffe feels about that swing. Breaking ball hit over the head at third for a base hit. Moreland no chance to handle it. The throw into second base and a little chewing, and he missed the bag, and the tag is there.
And of course, he's going to be second guessed for not sliding. He kind of tiptoed and tried to go in through the back door. And I was looking for him to really slide and hook the bag with his hand, but for some reason he goes in standing up.
Mumphrey to Noche, and even though it was way off line, trying to come around from center field. He's nailed on the left foot.
You know, he got off the bag. Then he tried to grab it with his hand. That's what happened. If he hooks it, looked like he was going to hook it with his hand. All of a sudden, he's going to step over the tag, and he's off, and he got him.
Lee Tunnell takes a strike. We'll take one more look at that play.
It's a good idea. Now he comes off the bag. You see him grab it with the hand.
And there's a looper to right field. Noche is there. 2 down.
Might just add, Vin, that Frank Lucchesi, who was the eye in the sky for the Cubs up in the press box, he just sent a note over saying that Noche can play all the infield positions. Has pretty good speed.
Well, he played well, and you know, when you think about it, the fact that he had to go so far off the bag on a poor throw from Mumphrey, that probably contributed to the indecision on Pena's part. Seeing the second baseman so go wide for the throw, he probably thought I didn't have to slide, and then Noche was so quick to get back after him.
But I tell you, it goes back, I think, to Abner Doubleday. When in doubt, slide.
Oh, and how? Well, here's Coleman. Hit back to the box in the first inning. He has hit in 9 straight. Hitting .294. And, of course, if ever a man puts heat on a pitcher, it's Coleman. Takes a strike. Coleman has stolen 40 bases and been caught 10.
They have clocked him 3.2 down to first base on a bunt. Of course, that's a running start, but that's flat flying.
Coleman, a switch hitter, batting left-handed. 0 for 7 against Sutcliffe this year. When you look at the Cardinal lineup, The first 3 hitters, Coleman, Smith, and Herr, are switch hitters. Right after Clark, you get McGee and Pendleton who switch. So 5 of the first 6 hitters in the Cardinal lineup switch. So this is a properly named team for Whitey Herzog to deal with. He's got the cards. The bunt in the air. One hopper to Sutcliffe. Leading the Cardinals 2-1, and we go to the 4th inning with Leon Durham, followed by Jody Davis and then Keith Moreland. Lee Tunnell versus Rick Sutcliffe. Durham struck out in the 2nd inning. The Bull 0 for 1. Batting .301. Hits it up along third base, and it'll go foul. 0-1.
Vin, you just gave a disclaimer for all the youngsters who want to be catchers. I would like to tell them that this stance by Tony Pena is presented by authority of Tony Pena, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of your doctor and signed by your parents. When you look at this stance, forget it, kids.
I don't know if you can call it a stance.
I don't know what you can call it.
It's the crouch of all time. In fact, the only way Tony Pena could get lower in his crouch is if he dug a hole behind the plate and sat under the ground. Oh, 1-1. That is something. Leon Durham has 13 home runs, but he's somewhat frustrated. 12 of the 13 have been hit with the bases empty.
You wonder what artificial surface does. The infield really gives you a tip-off. Ozzie Smith is about, look how far back and short he is. Look at Pendleton. He's beyond the white line, and he'll come walking in. But that is a deep, deep shortstop.
One ball, 2 strikes. In the dirt with the breaking ball, and the count 2-2. Tunnell did not prove to be any kind of a problem for the Cubs the last time they saw him. In 3 innings, the Cubs had 11 hits and 6 runs against him.
He's come out with glasses on this inning, which he did not have on the previous innings.
2-2. Ball 3.
There's nothing more intimidating, Vin, to a batter than to see a pitcher take his glasses off and wipe them.
Hello out there.
You want to wave to him. In a night game, you want to hold up a lighter and say, I'm here.
Remember what Ryan Duran used to do?
Oh.
3-2. Fouled away. Duran, who wore very thick glasses and threw so very, very hard, he would usually come in and warm up and maybe make his last warm-up toss and throw it on the screen behind home plate and then kind of squint in as if to say, all right, now there's a hitter, but where is he? Very unsettling. Durham strikes out for the 2nd time, and to Tunnell's credit, he challenged him that time. He got him away in the 2nd inning, but this time he came in on him with a breaking ball, I believe. Looked like a hard slider at the hand. Let's see. And it started to tail. So Durham is 0 for 2, and Jody Davis, the batter, applied to center in the 2nd inning. Fouled off. 0-1. The Cardinals and the Cubs. Well, the Cubs, of course, the long-suffering Cubs, they have not won since 1945. That year, when the Cubs won, they won by 3 over the St. Louis Cardinals. Right. Two to Davis. Keith Moreland on deck. 1 out in the 4th. Cubs 2, Cardinals 1. Inside. 1-2. To join us late, Terry Pendleton homered in the 2nd inning. The Cubs on 3 singles, a balk, and a stolen base took the lead in the 3rd inning. We get a report on Ryan Sandberg. 1-2. Rather a preliminary report. Twisted his right ankle crossing the bag, as you saw. Well, Jody Davis becomes strikeout number 5.
He challenged Leon Durham with his fastball, and he took something off the curveball here, and Jody was way out in front. see it was an off-speed pitch, and Jody really commits himself in a hurry, and he doesn't come close to getting a good pitch.
Tunnel is going right after the hitters. He's faced 14 batters, and the first pitch to 10 of them has been a strike. So here's Moreland. And make it 11 out of 15. Strike one.
You know, that's why I saw a quote attributed to Warren Spahn. I can't believe, to Tom Browning of Cincinnati. He said, don't throw a strike until you have to. That doesn't sound right.
High pop fly to shortstop. Ozzie Smith and the yellow brick road. And that's it for the Cubs in the fourth. At the end of 3.5, Chicago 2, St. Louis 1. Ozzie Smith, Tommy Herr, and then Jack Clark. Sutcliffe reminding and cautioning Leon Durham, look out for the bunt.
And Noche at second base.
4-1, 1-0. With Sutcliffe's return to form, he's 8-2. It's a great turnabout for the Cubs. Last year, they had the worst earned run average in the division. This year, they have the best earned run average in the division.
Then you remember last year, Whitey Herzog said that the secret of beating the Cardinals, and it was Jerry Koosman who exposed it by throwing a lot of high fastballs. And that's what really was the downfall, make him hit the ball in the air instead of the ground ball. And I asked him, well, why aren't the guys doing it this year?
1-1. Hit foul. 1-2.
And he said he went into spring training and really emphasized lay off that high fastball, make that pitcher come down and hit that ground ball on this artificial surface, because with this Cardinal club, obviously, it's run, Jackrabbit, run.
Whitey Herzog, with a remarkable degree of success, wherever he goes, the attendance goes up, and I guess that's really the sign of a successful manager. In fact, in the last 5 years here in St. Louis, the Cardinals have drawn at least $2 million each year. The only other time they did that was back in the championship years of '67 and '68. And who knows, they might become the first team since the Dodgers to draw $3 million this year. 2-2. Fastball hit to short. Sean Dunston with a great arm. I love to watch him throw. One down.
He got Ozzie Smith easily, but that was the typical play by the Cardinals, because the defense knows that they have to handle that ball cleanly. The least sign of a bobble, and they're on. Hit the ball on the ground and run. And again, there you see that throw by Dunston, and I mean, he's got gun over there.
Tommy Herr coming up now as we have a close-up at Sean. Herr is having a resurgence, a turnaround from last year after a brilliant 1985. Hitting .295. In there. Herr has hit in 9 of 11. He walks a lot. In fact, he's been getting on base almost every game better than the last 3 weeks. They lost him for 3 weeks. He was on the disabled list with a groin injury. Almost nicked him. 1-1. Ellis Burks hit a home run in the first inning. Boston led 1-0. Now they lead 2-1. And we understand that Bob Stanley hurt his shin and had to leave. Steve Crawford has picked up for him in the 4th inning for the Red Sox. 1-1. 1-2 to Tom Herr.
Sutcliffe so far has really been doing a masterful job moving that ball in and out and changing speeds, which is really the secret of pitching. When you boil it down to its simplest form, keep that hitter off stride, and that's what he's doing.
Trying to be the first National League pitcher to win 9. There is a big difference in the Sutcliffe now than of a few years ago. He throws more breaking balls now than fastballs. Ground ball up the middle, but Noche is there. 2 down.
That was a little cat and mouse game with that close-up we had of Sutcliffe. He has 4 pitches, and he shook off 4 signs. So obviously he went back to the first one that Jody Davis flashed. But just to give her something to think about, he shook him around.
You know, we were talking earlier about that strange at-bat that Jody Davis had. In that same game, Rick Sutcliffe was the winning pitcher. You know what his line read? 5 innings, 7 runs, 7 hits, 6 walks. Winning pitcher. One thing that has happened to Sutcliffe, when he was a Cy Young Award winner in '84, he had quite a few runs. The Cubs averaged over 5 runs a start for Rick to lean on. Last year, he had the fewest runs to lean on as a starter, only 3 runs a game, and it was reflected in the won and loss. Last year, the fellow had the most runs as a starter was Shane Rawley, who won 11 for Philadelphia. This year, the Cubs are averaging better than 6 runs a game for Sutcliffe. But of course, that's a little bit out of kilter because of the 22-run game. But it still boils down to this year. He's getting 5. Sutcliffe makes $1.8 million a year, and I understand he offered to pay $100,000 to Andre Dawson's contract to try and influence the Cubs in getting the right fielder. The offer was denied. Andre signed the blank contract for $500,000. He will get another $150,000 if he is not on the disabled list before the All-Star game. 2 balls, 1 strike. Ball 3.
Andre says that the money will come. He said, what I was interested in was to be with a contender, to play on natural turf, and to have some fun.
He's having all of that and then some. When he returned to Montreal, the first game he played in Montreal, he had 6 RBIs, including 2 home runs and 3 doubles. They didn't like it, but he came back with a vengeance.
He said he got more cheers in 10 minutes at Wrigley Field in 10 years in Montreal.
And there's ball 4 to Jack Clark. Well, you wouldn't really have to know he's hit 2 home runs against Sutcliffe. He got the silk glove treatment that time. And here comes Willie McGee.
And that's pretty much why McGee is able to drive in those runs. They pitch around Clark a little bit, and you've always got the base runners on.
We were talking before about how the Cubs have improved dramatically this year from last in playing on the turf. The other side of the coin, the Cardinals have improved dramatically on grass. Drive to left field, slicing in the corner. Mumphrey at the fence, backhands it. Fine play. A clutch play that would have gotten Clark in easily. But still 2-1. We'll be right back after these messages. Mumphrey on that long twisting fly ball of Willie McGee's bat, making a fine catch while feeling for the wall. It would have meant a run.
It's exactly what Gene Michael was talking about when he talked to him before the game about running down those balls on artificial surface. He needed more speed. He's been platooning out there, and very effectively.
Sean Dunston, Dave Martinez, and Rick Sutcliffe. The second report we get on Ryan Sandberg, now they say officially he has a sprained right ankle, which leaves you very much up in the air. Great stop by Pendleton. Throw him out. Wade, what a play.
And that's why it's tough to beat the Cardinals when you get defense like that. You can't hit it past the shortstop. You can't hit it past the third baseman. What a play this is. Dives, has it, and with that strong arm. And he's the fellow, Vin, who said, if I don't get any hits, they ain't going to get any either. And he just showed them.
In St. Louis, people say that Pendleton has now become the best defensive third baseman in the National League. However, he is overlooked for all-star honors because of the great Mike Schmidt in Philadelphia. But in St. Louis, they say this fella has really come of age at third base.
You don't get him any better than that one, because that ball, it hit that artificial surface and it took off. I mean, skidded there, and he was right there.
Dave Martinez singled, stole second, and eventually came around to score on the base hit by Sandberg. Strike, 0-1. We'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ball game. One ball, 1 strike.
Well, you can see why Whitey would get upset at base on balls, because with the defense you got out there
and a big park,
big ballpark, the only defense, no defense against a walk.
On the corner, 1-2. Tunnell is pitching very well. He has struck out 5. He has allowed 1 run and 2 hits. As Sutcliffe, and Tunnell 2 runs, 3 hits. So the pitcher's in command right now in the dirt. Preliminary x-rays of Ryne Sandberg's ankle negative. It has been ruled a sprain. And of course that leaves you up in the air because you just have no idea when anyone will return from a sprain. But Sandberg, who had missed 1 game this year, looks like he'll have to go to the pits for a while. Tough blow as Billy Williams and manager Gene Michael look on. 2-2. Fouled away.
Lee Tunnell, we mentioned, this is before he put the glasses on, obviously wearing contacts, having some problems with the heat. They were bothering him. The contacts were, and so he went back to the glasses, and just a problem now of trying to keep them dry. He wears them for night games, but today the contacts were giving him problems, so he put them on for a day game.
What's that old line? It's not one thing after another, it's the same thing over and over. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3. Contact wearers tell me that the bane of their existence would be wind. So if you're wearing contact lenses, let's say at Candlestick Park, you're in a lot of trouble. But now heat and perspiration will bother you as well. There's a 1-hopper at Tommy Herr. Played dead right at his belt buckle. 2 down.
Rick Sutcliffe.
So Rick Sutcliffe coming up. He bunted in the 3rd inning. And the pattern continues for Lee Tunnell. He's had 17 hitters, and he's had the first strike on 13 of them. Well, if you were expecting Arctic chill, you're in the wrong place. It's still around 100. The Mound City, St. Louis.
What's the equivalent of a wind chill factor for summer?
It's here, right? That's right. 0-1. Sutcliffe has hit 3 home runs in his career. He hit 1 last year against Bryn Smith. And you might remember in the league championship series in 1984, Rick hit a home run against Eric Shaw at San Diego. What a year that was. 16-1. 1-2 to Rick Sutcliffe, a big guy out of Independence, Missouri.
Usually a pitcher will say, okay, if that's a strike when I'm batting, make that a strike when I'm pitching now.
Terry Tata is the plate umpire. Jerry Crawford, Greg Bonin, and Harry Wendelstedt on the lines. Two balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Bases empty. 2-1 Cubs. Ground ball to short. Ozzie is there. And that's that. Tunnell sets him down. 8 in a row, retired. And he's had 4 1-2-3 innings for Tunnell. 2-1 Chicago. Terry Pendleton will actually catch the line drive hit by Sean Dunston right there. But when his glove hits the ground, then it will spill out. He has to get up and throw him out, and he's capable of doing it. And as so often happens, after making a brilliant defensive play, we have him as a leadoff man. Pendleton homered in the 2nd inning. He has 4 home runs, and he's been picking on the Cubs. Followed by John Morris and then Tony Pena. By the way, Joe and I would certainly like to take a moment and send along our best wishes for a speedy recovery to left-hander Ken Daly of the Cardinals. Gosh, he has undergone so many trials and tribulations of late. Fouled away. Daly had a tendon transferred from the right forearm to the left elbow, and now he's down and out for at least 2 weeks. As you look at John Tudor, who has just returned, They just took the fiberglass cast off his leg. It points up an interesting feature about the Cardinals and some tough luck involving their pitching. 0-2. 0-1. You get back to Daly with meningitis, Joe, and they say he'll be out maybe a week or two, huh?
That's what they said, and you know, you can't help it. Really, your heart goes out to him because, like you say, he's had so many problems.
So Ken hang tough, baby. We'll see you soon, I hope.
Tudor, by the way, talking to him, it's a day-to-day. He said the leg obviously is weak. The cast came off, and he's been doing leg lifts, and he'll be ready when it's ready, is the way he put it.
Ground ball to the right side. Noche to Durham, one away. One out in the fifth. Let's get an update. We'll go to Marv Albert in New York.
Thanks, Ben. In Detroit, our pregame guest, the red-hot Alan Trammell, whacked his 8th homer of the season, second in as many days. He's now hit in 18 straight games, leads the American League, hitting .358. Tigers and Red Sox tied at 2 in the fourth. Back to Vin and Joe.
All right, Marv, bottom of the fifth, one out. John Morris, the batter. Morris grounded out in the second inning. 0-1. With the troubles of Ken Daly and looking at the sideline John Tudor, as we did a minute ago, John said he might be ready in September. We'll see. It shows you what happened to the 1985 champion Cardinals. If you remember 85, they had 3 starting pitchers that won at least 18 games. That was the first time that happened in the National League in 20 years. John Tudor, Joaquin Andujar, and Danny Cox. That was a team that never lost a lead in the 9th inning until the 6th game of the World Series. But now look at those 3 pitchers in 1987. Right. Joaquin Andujar has gone to Oakland. On Tudor suffering the freak broken leg when Barry Lyons slid into the dugout and got him. Danny Cox is 6-3, so he's still pitching well. And of course, I tell you, the fellow they really miss here in St. Louis. Good change. The fellow they really miss is Jeff Lottie. There was no better setup pitcher in the National League than Jeff Lottie. And there's no one to really fill his bill. Meanwhile, the Cubs lost Steve Trout, and they tell us that he's about ready. Steve might very well pitch Tuesday night against Philadelphia. And Ron Davis, who had a hyperextended elbow, pitched well the other night. And it's reasonable to assume that Ron Davis will be back. But the pitching woes or the pitching success, so goes the fortunes of a ball club. There's Ron. 3-2. Back. I couldn't help but laugh. We finally show a picture of Ron Davis. He spits. It's almost like Pavlov's dog. As soon as you take the bell rings, he salivates. As soon as you take a picture of a big league ball player, he doesn't know it, but he immediately expectorates.
Yeah, but it was better to look at Tudor with the bubble gum than him chewing that dopey tobacco.
Yeah, I agree. Full count to John Morris with Tony Payne on deck. And that's hit towards right center, and it will fall. And Morris going for 2. In there. And that was the experience of playing on the rug. He saw that Dawson was cautiously playing it rather than have it bounce over his head. And he was thinking double all the way.
Yes, he was. And we said you might see some tricky bounces. And Morris, he's running hard all the way because he knows that Dawson is going to be cautious, because if he gets too close to that bounce, it's going over his head. And he's got himself an easy double. And it was a single when it left the bat, I'll tell you that.
So John Morris legs it into a double. And with 1 out, the batter is Tony Pena. And remember, Morris is the tying run. It is 2-1 Cubs, bottom of the 5th inning. For John Morris, that's his first double of the year.
Shades of Ted Kluszewski with those sleeves rolled up, Vin. A little difference in the size of the arms, though.
Yeah, and how. Pena single to left in the 3rd inning, remember. Johnston breaking to the bag, so no play.
ball by Morris was not hit that hard, but they're going to be cautious. It's not going to go over their head, and Dawson waits for it, and now he sees that Morris is going for 2, but it's too late.
One ball and no strike.
Pena is one of those exuberant players. In fact, when I look at him and the way he's got his uniform ready, it reminds me of that cartoon in Peanuts, Pigpen. He really is. He makes the club look good.
1-0 the count. Tying run at second, and he's going to third. The pitch inside. He's stolen it.
They're on their own, and they take advantage of it, and Morris, doing what the Cardinals can do so well, helped to manufacture a run. He manufactured a double, and now it's really a triple because here it is, 1 man out, and Pena with the fly ball can drive in that big run.
You have the combination of a knowledgeable base runner against a pitcher whom we talked about before. You can time his delivery, and Morris had him timed. There was no way that Sutcliffe could have gotten him. He had such a big jump.
And a right-handed batter helped the cause. Davis had to throw over him.
2-0 the count to Pena. The tying run 90 feet away. The infield is up. A bouncer, short hop and off the glove of Dunston. The run is in. That's a double play ball if Morris is at first base with a single. That's how important John Morris was here in the 5th inning.
And remember, on the ball Ozzie Smith hit, we talked about that the speed of the Cardinals makes the infield and the defense think we better handle it cleanly. Even on that ball, Dunston knew he had to come up with it because Morris is running. He is not hesitating. As soon as the ball's hit, Morris is heading for the plate. And Dunston knew he had to come up with it. And going back to what you said, Vin, if Morris is safe, just satisfied with the single, it's a double play, and that's it. But they manufactured it.
So we got a dandy here. 2-2, and the bunt is down but foul. 0-1. A couple of things to keep in mind about the Cardinals. We've talked about how they have turned around. Although they had a lot of base runners last year, they were able to score about 32%, just about next to last in the league. But the one thing the Cardinals have been doing, it's somewhat of an obscure stat. We're not going to bother you with numbers. Let's put it this way. The Cardinals have led the major leagues in the last 3 years, 3 straight years, in advancing runners on outs. They do that better than anybody, and it's all because of Herzog, who demands it. Fouled away, 0-2.
The big league ball club, when you look at it, that wins, will keep the double play in order on defense. They'll stay away from it on offense, and they'll pick up a base with an out.
That's it. That's the Herzog play. You won't read that or see it in the box score, but if you're talking about moving runners along, and of course the name of the game is run scored, the Cardinals do it better than anybody. Sutcliffe trying to nail his opposite number now and prevent him from getting a sacrifice.
And Pena's got pretty good speed. You just can't say, well, with the pitcher up there and he'll be bunting, and if he gets a big enough jump, he'll take off.
Another thing the Cardinals did last year that they didn't do in '85, they sacrificed a lot last year. Not so much this year. Pitch out.
Good play. If nothing else, you want to see what's happening.
1-2.
See, that's the thing, that you play against a ball club like this, they got you thinking. They have you moving. You're on edge.
2-2 tie here in the 5th inning. 1-2 the count to Lee Tunnel. 1 out. The team in the National League that sacrifices the most is a team that might surprise you. You think of them as a home run hitting ball club and a home run hitting ballpark. The Atlanta Braves. 1-2. 2-2. Tunnel, by the way, has sacrificed twice this year.
Big lead.
Sutcliffe holding, and then back
by Sutcliffe, because I tell you, Pena had both his feet on the artificial surface, which is a big lead, and it would indicate that they might be trying to play a run and bunt or run and hit play. But Pena's getting way off.
Big lead. Both feet are on the rug. And the bunt is foul. So it's a big bunt. And the lack of it will hurt the Cardinals now. That's the third strikeout for Rick Sutcliffe. As we mentioned, he is not the strikeout pitcher that he was a couple of years ago because he throws so many breaking balls. This time he's able to take care of Tunnel. Looked like a good ball to bunt, too.
It was a good ball to bunt, man. He just he almost tried to guide the ball rather than, as they say, catch the ball with the bat. He tried to push it towards Durham, knowing that if Durham fielded it, his only play would be to first base. But
well, if you want to look for the silver lining now, you're Herzog, you say, oh, well, at least Pena's at first. That means that Durham has to hold a corner on him. But let's see what that means to Vince Coleman. That's right. Coleman tried to bunt his last time out. He's 0 for 2, hitting balls back to Sutcliffe. Coleman with 40 stolen bases, 14 RBIs, hitting .293. Even though Pena has been out for a while, he has already stolen 3 bases. He's 3 for 3. Both feet on the rug. You better go over there when a runner gets both of them out there.
I tell you, he makes the ball club look good, Pena does, because he's an exuberant kind of player. I mean, most catchers would take a lead and say, hey, 2 outs, I got to put the tools on again. Look at him diving back and rolling around in the dirt. You got to like a player like that.
Oh, and how?
Look at him. He's soaking wet now, and he must weigh 4 pounds more than he started with. Look at that.
Looks like he was fixing his car.
That's mud. I'd like to see him do one of those detergent commercials with that uniform. See if they could get it clean.
0-1 the count of Vince Coleman. A 2-2 tie. Fouled away in the count 0-2.
That's pure mud. That's what you're looking at. That's polyunsaturated mud. He'll have to change his shirt because it weighs 2 pounds and 4 pounds heavier than when he started.
The count of Vince Coleman. A 2-2 tie in the 5th inning. And they draw another throw. Pena 3 for 3 and a threat to go. As far as Coleman's numbers are concerned, Vince strikes out a bit more than they would like. About 20%.
Say what you want, but Pena is forcing Sutcliffe to break his concentration.
We told you that Tunnel has had 4 balks called on him this year. We might drop in the fact that Sutcliffe has had just 1 balk. It's always a concern, of course, especially when you're trying to hold a runner on. You might even cheat without thinking about it. There he goes. And it's fouled away. So Pena going 0-2. So the Cardinals were not worrying about a pitch out. They were just turning him loose.
They let their runners go. You know, Whitey will have a don't steal, but if they think they can make it go, one thing that Whitey wants to let them keep is that aggressiveness. And you saw it here in this inning.
Cards have stolen 88 bases. They have been last in the major leagues in home runs for the last 5 years. But over that 5-year period, they're the first team in history to steal over 200 bases every year. And they're going to steal over 200 again this year.
And in reality, Ben, they got 2 stolen bases this inning because Morris literally stole that double.
Right. Pena not going. 1-2. 2 runs, 3 hits for the Cubs. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Cardinals. Home run by Pendleton. And for the Cubs, the loss of Ryan Sandberg with a sprained right ankle on a play at first base. One ball, 2 strikes.
So the speed will help you on offense, on defense, and like right now, the defense itself has to be playing on eggs, wondering what's happening. They got to handle the ball cleanly because Coleman can run so fast. Pena's got good speed. He may run at any time. So there are all kinds of little things. It's just not grab the ball, throw the ball, catch the ball.
And one good thing for the defense, Sutcliffe's been throwing strikes. And now you have deuces wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. The Cubs 2 and the Cardinals 2 in the 5th.
And he kind of quick pitched that time. He kind of hold Pena there. Now, if you're Jody Davis, you're saying to yourself, well, you know he's going to be running 3-2 with 2 outs, so chances are he's running 2-2. And the worst, if I get him, the Cardinals will be in good shape. With Coleman leading off, that's the thinking. Close.
And Pena almost caught walking.
He was trying to get that walking lead.
Rich Hacker coaching at first, Nick Labo over at third.
If they can get Pena to dive back 2 or 3 more times, he won't be able to move.
1 foot on. Not going. And time. Oh. And there's the balk. Well, we told you before, Tunnel at 4 and Sutcliffe 1, and now here's number 2. But this one will not just pass. Gene Michael is on his way out to talk to Terry Tatum. Whenever you have a running team, the balk is always involved. It is much or more so than the home run.
But I got to believe that there's been a directive or something set down to watch those pitchers a little bit more, because they are. And what they say that any good pitching move is a half balk, whatever that means. But with Pena dancing around there, and now Michael is still arguing and wants an explanation, because obviously a big play.
I can't relate it to last year. I don't have those kind of figures. But I do know that that balk that was just called against Sutcliffe is the 100th balk in the National League this year. 100. And we're early in June. Watch his hands now at the belt. And there was no stop. It used to be, the rule book said 1 second. And then everybody said, okay, how do you time a second? 1/1000. Then they said a complete stop. Well, that wasn't a second, and it was not a complete stop until the balk was called.
It's like a quota system. I think the umpires are on the quota system.
All right, the go-ahead run at second base. And a fistful of deuces to break Vegas. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. A runner at second and a 2-2 tie.
And as Sutcliffe made the turn and faked the throw, all the infielder heads just dropped. Like, let's get this inning over and get in out of this hot sun.
2-2. And it's a ground ball under his glove. Noche at the bag. Safe. The run to the plate scored.
He's fooling on the pitch. He does not take a big swing. And Coleman sees a base hit in sight. He beats the play with his speed. Durham, he wants to see what's being called. And as he does that, Pena comes around to score. Noche handles the ball cleanly. Durham makes a natural move as he's safer out. And as he's looking there, now, whoops, look out. And here comes Pena. Not even close.
The speed of the Cardinals has put them out in front. John Morris turned a single into a double with his legs and stole third, so that with the infield up, Pena hits what would have been a double play ball. Instead, it's a base hit for a run. The balk sends Pena to second, and an infield single by Coleman gets the go-ahead run home. Running, running, and more running.
The only thing missing in his rally is a starter's gun. It's like a track meet.
3-2 St. Louis, and Ozzie Smith flied to left and grounded out 0 for 2. For Vince Coleman, that infield single, he has hit in 10 straight. High foul off to the left of the plate. Davis trying to get under it. No play. Boy, you talk about little ball. Oh, it doesn't get any smaller. This is microscopic ball here in St. Louis, and they are leading 3-2. By the way, Thanks to Elliot Kalb doing some research for us. We told you that balk by Sutcliffe was the 100th. Well, that doesn't mean anything unless you can put it in perspective. Last year, in the entire year, there was 176. At the rate we're going, we'll have close to 300. So right away you say, they're really calling balks this year.
Coleman wants to go, Vin.
Who's going to say no to a guy who's stolen 40? Both feet on the rug. Boy, are they trying to burn Sutcliffe.
And I tell you, the infield back on their heels, and you can understand it. You got to worry about the runners. You got to worry about if they hit the ball on the ground, boy, you got to spring into action.
1-2. There he stopped.
He was going. He got a bad jump. He took his left foot there. He was trying to dig it in, and Sutcliffe kind of quick pitched it, but he wanted to go. You can see him smiling. He had it all going. Jody would have gotten him, though.
2-2 to Ozzie Smith. 3-2 St. Louis in the 5th. For the Cubs in the 6th, excuse me, Joe, Noche, Mumphrey, and Dawson due up.
He's got him measured. He's got him measured. Coleman is hoping that he could go on his pitch because he's got him measured. Boy, you'd love to be able to pitch out, but 2-2 you can't.
He doesn't go, and there's a fly ball to right field. Andre Dawson is right there. And they put the lid on the 5th, but not before the Cardinals scurry for 2 and lead 3-2 at the end of 5. Here's another edition of Characters of the Game.
Beautiful thing is a ballpark filled with people.
To himself, he was Old Will. To the baseball world, he was the most creative promoter the sport has ever known. Bill Veeck was a rebel owner who signed the American League's first black player, helped plant the ivy at Wrigley Field, and was the absolute master at wooing fans to the park with outrageous stunts. His most memorable maneuver came in August of 1951. In the middle of a game between the Browns and Tigers in St. Louis, Veeck sent up pinch hitter Eddie Goodell, a midget who stood 3 feet 6 inches tall. Goodell walked on 4 pitches. So here's to Bill Veeck, a character of the game.
Now that I'm a big TV personality and living in Hollywood, it's important that I improve my ability to party. So I got myself this hot tub and invited over some close friends I've known for hours. And instead of the usual boring soft drinks, I'm serving A&W root beer. A&W's rich and creamy, and it has that frosty mug taste. There's nothing like a hot tub, a cold frosty one, and some properly prepared crustaceans. Pour yourself an A&W, regular or diet.
All right, Marv. It is 3-2 in favor of the Cardinals as we go to the 6th inning.
Here's that last replay on Coleman, who wanted to go. You see him break, but what happened was Sutcliffe, who's got a little bit of time in this league, just quick pitch the hitter Ozzie Smith, and Coleman couldn't go.
That's one of the rare times today where Lee Tunnell has missed with the first pitch. 14 of the 18 batters, that first pitch has been a strike, but not this time to Paul Noche. Noche from San Francisco lives in San Mateo and hits a one-hopper backhanded by Ozzie Smith to get him.
You can play deep. The ball gets out to you a little quicker, but as deep as he was, nice one-hopper and easy out.
Left fielder Jerry Mumphrey.
The left fielder Jerry Mumphrey will be coming up. Flied to right and struck out. Mumphrey 0 for 2. (3-2) St. Louis, top of the 6th. Mumphrey was here in St. Louis, up and down in 74, 5, and 6, and stayed through 79. Fouled away, 0-1. In fact, maybe it's only full circle. Jerry Mumphrey, when he was with the Cardinals, got his first major league hit and run batted in, you guessed it, against the Cubs. Another hopper, and Ozzie Smith, the vacuum cleaner, sucks it up. 2 down.
They can try somebody else because I think that fellow has proven he can pick them up.
That's 10 in a row since the single by Ryan Sandberg that turned out to be a disastrous base hit for the Cubs. And here comes Andre Dawson. To give you an idea about Andre Dawson and his left knee, one reason I guess why people were leery of signing him, He said that when he was playing for Montreal, they used $20 worth of tape on the knee every day. That was Canadian money. $20. And that left knee, you can bet, is wrapped right now. We talked about his fondness for grass and daylight. Also his fondness for playing in Wrigley Field. In 10 years in the big league, Andre's career average at Wrigley, 346. He hit for the cycle this year against San Francisco, the first Cub to do that since 1980. And he missed being only the second man in history to hit for the cycle twice in 1 year. He had a cycle going against Houston, but instead of hitting a double, he hit a home run. The only player to hit for the cycle in the National League twice 50-some-odd years ago, Babe Herman of the Brooklyn Dodgers did. 1-1. Got to be strong to swing that bat. That's a 35-ounce bat. What was the heaviest bat you ever swung?
34 ounces.
34.
You know, he also has a very intricate stance to the extent that his front foot, when he goes to swing, he kind of lifts it, and he always has Billy Williams watch his mechanics.
And he loops it into left field. That'll be a base hit. So Andre Dawson is 1 for 3 as he singles to left. The Cubs with the tying run aboard. And the batter now will be Leon Durham, who has had a bad time against Lee Tunnell. He struck out in the second, struck out in the fourth. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Cardinals, 2 runs, 4 hits for the Cubs. And I'm surprised the first base area doesn't go up in smoke. With Jack Clark and Andre Dawson standing shoulder to shoulder, you're talking about a lot of heat over there. Ball 1-0 to Leon Durham. Remember, we told you he hasn't been hitting home runs with anybody on base. With his 13, 12 of them have come against right-hand pitchers. Cardinals trying to get a 5-game lead over the Cubs. The Cubs trying to cut it to 3. Remember, the Cubs have not lost 3 straight this year. The only team in the National League not to have done that.
The fact that Pena is down on his knees doesn't mean that he's not going to throw, and he's got Dawson scampering back.
Tony Pena is the Toulouse-Lautrec of baseball. Two and 0. And that's ball 3. Now it's 3:30 down the lines. It is very hot. The ball will travel. And what we're pointing out is the fact that if you're Gene Michael, you have a chance to get out in front with Durham if he gets a hold of one.
Well, he's got him hit, and I asked him about 3-0. He said, if I got a chance to tie it, I'd go ahead. And I got the man up there. He's loose.
Well, here he is. 3 balls, no strikes. And it's outside. He wasn't going to get a pitch he could handle. So 2 on with 2 out. And the batter will be Jody Davis. By the way, that is the first walk given up by Lee Tunnell. His control has been magnificent up to here. So the Cubs were down 1-0 and came up with 2 in the third. The Cardinals ran their way with 2 in the fifth to take the lead. And the Cubs now with Dawson at second, Durham at first, and Davis at the plate.
Interesting conversation. Ozzie Smith called Pena out to the mound, and Ozzie Smith was taking charge. He was chairman of the board out there, and whatever he had to say, he was pretty emphatic in telling Tony Pena. And obviously, it would be how to pitch to Jody Davis. You got 2 men out, you worry about him.
So Jody Davis at the plate. Jody hitting .262. Flied to center and struck out. And he starts him with the strike. Now, he's showing a lot of heart out there in doing that.
And on the outside corner.
0-1 to count to Jody Davis. On deck, another right-hand hitter, Keith Moreland. Breaking ball missed. 1 ball and 1 strike. Interesting the way the Cubs stack up offensively. On the bench, they have all right-handed batters. They have Martinez and Durham in the lineup, left-handed, and they have one switch hitter in Jerry Mumphrey. That's in direct contrast to the Cardinal club, which is really stacked up evenly. Pickoff play, Dawson is back. The Cardinals, for instance, have 3 right-handed batters. They have 2 left-handed batters, and for good measure, they have a switch hitter. So there is more balance in the Cardinal bench than with the Cubs. Tunnel now has made 80 pitches, and we're in the 6th. 2-1. Big, slow curveball.
Here's where I think you almost have to guess if you're Jody, saying, well, he's missed with the curveball. I'm going to gamble he's going to give me a fastball. I'm going to sit on it, and if I get it, I'll have me a pretty good cut.
Jody, as we said, in his career, much more of a home run threat at Wrigley than he is on the road. John Vukovich in the third base coaching box trying to shepherd Andre Dawson's lead. He's a tying run. Bill Dawley is up now in the Cardinal bullpen. 2-1. Curveball fouled away.
That's the difference between the mediocre pitcher and the good pitcher in a tough ball game. He missed with 2 curveballs as we see Dawley, and he comes back with the curveball when you feel that Davis would be sitting on the fastball.
2-2 to Jody. 10 home runs, 25 runs batted in. Dawson at second and Durham at first. So Deuce is wild on Judah. Curveball lifted foul off first and out of play.
4 in a row, Vim.
Well, if you're a catcher, maybe he's starting to think of something. Now, how many times is Pena going to call curveball?
Well, he's definitely thinking that now, guarantee you, because with the 2 that he missed, you thought he was going to go to the fastball. He didn't. Threw it for a strike, threw the last one for a strike.
Well, it's the old story. He better be looking fastball. You can adjust on the curve, but you can't do it the other way around.
Not that right.
And Tunnel doesn't want to go 3 and 2s, so this ought to be the best thing he has in the store right now. 2 balls, 2 strikes, with 2 on and 2 out, 3-2 St. Louis. And it's a little breaking ball hit off the end of the bat, and Ozzie Smith takes care of all of it. No runs, a hit, and 2 left. At the end of 5 1/2, Cardinals 3, Cubs 2. The Cardinals and the Cubs, one of the great rivalries in all of baseball. You played for the Cardinals. When I say Cardinal-Cub rivalry, what comes to mind, Joe?
1949. We've had 3 games to play, 3-game lead, 6 to play. Played Pittsburgh last, played the Cubs. The Cubs knocked us out of the pennant. 1949.
Okay.
Nice rivalry.
Yeah, and how, I should say. Well, let's take a look and find out what's going on here at Busch. For the Cardinals, leading 3-2, Tommy Herr, Jack Clark, and Willie McGee. Tommy Herr lined out to left field and grounded out. So Tommy 0 for 2. Big crowd enjoying every minute of it. Well, they should. It's a good one.
Then while Mumphrey's running out to left field, don't want to overlook that piece of pitching by Tunnel. 5 curveballs in the jam. It'll not show up in the box score, but that was a great piece of pitching.
Yeah, and even Jody Davis would grudgingly have to admit he hit that slow curve at the end of the bat from the last out. So Tommy Herr hitting .293 at the plate. Now let's see if Jody calls for a curve. Nope. 1 ball and no strikes. Tommy Herr had a magnificent 1985 and then a somewhat dismal 1986, showing signs of coming back. To give you an idea what kind of a difference in his years, in 1985, Tommy Herr hit .313 against right-hand pitching. You know what he hit against right-hand pitching last year? .212, 100 points less. .3-0 the count. On deck is the heart and soul of this iron and steel Cardinal offense. The iron is Jack Clark. The steel Coleman, Smith, and company. That's his right. Well, the Tigers, spotting the Sox a run in the first inning, have caught them 3-3 in the 6th inning. Away. 3-2, the count to Tommy Hurd. The third switch hitter in a row in this talented Cardinal lineup. That's the one thing Whitey can do. He can just keep dealing and wheeling and dealing. It's so hard to manage against him because of all the switch hitters, plus the fact that he has such a balanced bench and a balanced bullpen. And of course, more than anything else, he knows what to do with them.
And he's had a secret weapon in Okendo, but he's not so secret anymore.
That's right. As he calls him, the MVP, V for versatile. You know, when you think about it, and maybe this is one reason, and we're not diminishing Whitey's skills as a manager, but I would think every manager is really subject to the whims and decisions of the general manager. But that might not be so here in St. Louis. Whitey was the GM, and I would think Dow Maxfield would spend a lot of time, and well worth time, listening to Herzog. That doesn't happen in most other ball clubs.
Well, I've got to believe that that's one reason, one of the conditions that Whitey had. And the reason he gave up the general manager's job is that he couldn't negotiate. He said an agent would come in and tell me how good a player is. Hey, man, I see him for 162 games.
3-2. And there's a shot to right. Going back is Dawson. It's overhead against the wall. Hurd is into second base, standing with a double.
A double. First base is open. Nobody out. Clark's the batter. McGee follows him. That's just what you were talking about.
And what do? Even if you get somebody up in the bullpen, McGee on behind Clark switches. Then comes Pendleton and he switches. The Cubs have 3 right-hand pitchers: Ed Lynch, Dickie Knowles, and Lee Smith in the pen. The Sutcliffe back up by Dickie Knowles in the pen. And here is Clark. Struck out and walked. 0 for 1. Jack hitting .317.
Whitey says about Jack Clark that there aren't many players that can generate the bat speed that he does. And when he gets his Jack Clark swing, you'll know exactly what Whitey means.
Well, to paraphrase the picture again, he really is the nucleus of this atomic attack they have here. The neutrons are all the guys running around him, but he is the heartbeat, the power. Fastball missed. Ball 2.
There's only a couple of them. Mike Schmidt of Philadelphia, Jack Clark, where, I mean, they can win it for you with one swing.
Jack Clark was on the San Francisco All-Dream Teal as the right fielder back in 1982. And he's given the Giants and other clubs in the league nightmares now. 2-0 the count. Clark with almost half of the Cardinal home run.
It's one of those situations where what do you want to do? Nothing. I want to hold the ball as long as I can.
Clark, because of his power, also leads the clubs in walks. He's looking for his 51st walk. Breaking ball in there.
You don't think he was looking for a fastball?
No, 2-1.
He was almost drooling.
Rick Sutcliffe has allowed 6 hits. He has walked 1, struck out 3, and given up 3 runs. The men who walk in the National League: Von Hayes, Dale Murphy, and Jack Clark. Cardinals 3 runs, 6 hits, no errors. Cubs 2 runs, 4 hits, and no errors. Cardinals led 1-0. Cubs led 2-1. But now the Cardinals back up on top and trying to get some more. Paul Noche makes the catch. So not only does Clark make out, he is unable to advance the runner. He never really got around on that.
He jammed him.
Yeah, Sutcliffe made a great pitch.
Yes, he did. He got that fastball in that close stance. He didn't get around on that fastball, and that's exactly what happens when you don't get around on it.
Let's take a look at that pitch and see that close stance, just where it is.
And watch the pitch. Inside, hits it right on the handle. Had him get those arms out there on that pitch, and boom, it's 2 runs. But Sutcliffe made a great pitch.
Willie McGee struck out, and if you remember in the 4th inning, hit a high twisting fly ball into the left field corner, and Jerry Mumphrey made a fine running catch to take an extra base hit and an RBI away from him. McGee last night knocked in 3 of the 4 Cardinal runs, and he had 2 doubles and a triple. He is still not 100% coming off a leg injury, but he'll do. In 1985, remember, he led the National League in hitting. And then gave back almost 100 points in batting last year. In this heat, and with Sutcliffe working so hard, when you look at the Cubs in the 7th, Moreland, Dunston, Martinez, and then Sutcliffe is due up 4th. So they might be thinking about a hitter for him as well. He's made 90 pitches. Sutcliffe trying to be the first National League pitcher to win 9. Trying to prevent the Cubs from losing 3 straight for the first time this year. Line drive, base hit to right. Here comes Tommy Hurd to score. So McGee picks him up, and it's 4-2 St. Louis.
Dawson knows he doesn't have a chance for her and fires it into second base, hoping to keep that double play in order and hoping to get it.
So Sutcliffe against the Cardinals this year went 2 2/3 innings and 6 innings, and he's trying to get out of the 7th inning today. He's been working very hard. In 11 of his last 12 starts, he's piled up over 80 innings. So he is on, I can't say thin ice. There's no ice in St. Louis. Terry Pendleton, who homered and grounded out at the plate. 4-2 St. Louis. Ball 1.
And boy, it almost seems like whoever's on base, you got to worry about steal.
Well, it's interesting. We made that point about McGee is not running like he used to, but he still is 4 for 4 in stolen bases. The interesting thing about Pendleton, he grounds into a lot of double plays. So they have McGee go, and he steals it. The throw is into center field, and he moves over to third.
I think of all the plays in baseball, a home run is a home run, but the steal is humiliating to the extent that it's a battle of legs. In this case, McGee's legs against Jody Davis's arms. That's the way you see it. And when you don't make the play, it's humiliating as a catcher, and it picks up the other ball club because they say, hey, we can run whenever we want. That going into center field now has moved the infield in. Pendleton puts the bat on the ball, and chances are they'll pick up another run.
So a double, a single for a run, and a stolen base in the overthrow charged to Jody Davis. And it is 4-2 St. Louis. With 1 out, the Cubs have to play the infield up. And it's a line drive, a great diving catch by Paul Noche. So Paul playing because of the injured Ryan Sandberg saves a run. That's the 2nd out, and it'll bring up the left-hand hitting John Morris.
He makes a good play. He was playing in tight, diving line drive play, and it's the only one that would not score the run. I mean, you can see why they draw such big crowds. It is quite a ball club to watch.
Oh, it's a most exciting ball club. John John Morris grounded out and doubled. And of course the double was exciting because it really was a single. Ball one. That's when he caught Andre Dawson. And remember, when you catch Dawson, you're catching a man who has 6 gold gloves in right field. And Morris, seeing that Dawson was overly cautious, took the extra base, and that put a light to the inning. And it gave a 2-run inning to the Cardinals in the lead. In there, 1-1. Down by 2, however, Sutcliffe in his heart knows that he's on the edge of coming out, even for a hitter, if he survives the 6th. He has 2 out. Fastball, and Morris a little late, slapped it foul. 1-2. Cardinals led 1-0. The Cubs led 2-1. The Cardinals led 3-2, and now 4-2. And to look ahead, Moreland, Dunston, and Martinez due up in the 7th. The paid attendance today, 47,395, and there's over 49,000 in the house. Ground foul.
And it looks like about 46,000 are wearing some kind of red, and you're looking at 50,000 Bloody Marys.
47,395. In fact, if they draw over 45,000 tomorrow, and I'm sure they will establish a new attendance mark for a 3-game series here in St. Louis. And it figured that if they break the old mark, they would do it with the Cubs. And we repeat, after tomorrow, the Cardinals and the Cubs will not play each other again until the 18th of September. So it's time for the Cardinals to widen the gap, and the pressure is on the Cubs to narrow it. 1-2. 2-2 to John Morris.
Struggling.
Yep, he's laboring. 3-2.
He wants to get out of this inning. Michaels would like to see him and the inning use the pinch hitter, but he's struggling, man. To use one of yours, the needle's getting towards empty.
He's 6'7", 215, and Michael is watching him like a child out there. High pop fly on the right side. Leon Durham. For the Cardinals, leg it for a run. Lead 1, and at the end of 6, St. Louis 4, Chicago 2. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. A moment's respite in the heat for the umpires for Messrs. Tata, Crawford, Bonin, and Wendelstedt. A reminder, double action on NBC next Saturday. Coverage begins with Major League Baseball, an inside look with host Marv Albert. Then it'll be the Yankees and the Red Sox, or the Reds and Braves. And in game 2 of the doubleheader, it'll be the Dodgers and the Astros at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
And that's one of the things we take for granted, Vin, that the umpires really don't get a chance to go in between innings. And on a day like today, boy, what a beating they must take out there, just standing out there.
On the rug. Keith Moreland grounded to short and popped to short, 0 for 2. Lee Tunnell missing with the breaking ball, 1 ball and no strikes. Fastball is hit to Ozzie Smith. No contest there, 1 away. Let's go to New York and get another update from Marv Albert.
Thanks, Vin. At Candlestick in San Francisco. This is rookie Shane Mack of San Diego connecting for his first Major League home run. Padres now leading Atlee Hammaker and the Giants 4-1, bottom of the 2nd inning. Back to Vin and Joe.
All right, Marv, 1 away, and Sean Dunston, the batter, the first home run of his big league career. A day to remember. Ike. You look back at your scorebook, you see that Tunnel has thrown a lot of ground balls, and 5 of the last 7 hitters have hit it to Ozzie Smith.
It's not a very good percentage.
Talking about throwing your money down the drain. It's a good way to go busted. Keep hitting ground balls to him. 1 out in the 7th. 4-2 St. Louis. Breaking ball hit to center, and that'll be a base hit for Shane Dunston. So Sean holding on, and Dave Martinez the batter.
Ball was out of the strike zone, but he just reached out and jammed it into center field.
Gary Matthews is in the on-deck circle. So Dave Martinez is coming up, and Gary Matthews will be batting for Rick Sutcliffe. Remember, we told you in the Cub dugout against right-hand pitcher, they're all right-handed batters. On the bench available, Sandberg, Trio, Matthews, Diet, and Dernier. So Sutcliffe will call it a day. Of course, there's one chance that he wouldn't, and that is if Martinez hits one double play, Sutcliffe might then have to trudge back out there and hit the bottom of the 7th. Dunston at first. He's 1 for 3. In fact, he could be 3 for 3. Dunston singled, was robbed on that great catch by Terry Pendleton, and now singles again. And remember, when Dunston was aboard in the 3rd inning, he put enough heat on that Lee Tunnell balked, as you see Bill Dawley in the pen. 0-1. One and 1. Payne knew at that Toulouse-Lautrec trot as he worked on his knees, all set to throw to first. Dunston has stolen 8 out of 9. However, with his ball club down by 2, perhaps they just as soon keep Clark on the bag. Martinez has a look at John Vukovic in the 3rd base coaching box to see if they might put a play on. And they put a play on. A line drive base hit to right. Hesitating for a moment is Dunston, and now he breezes to 3rd. And so Lee Tunnell is suddenly in some trouble. Back-to-back singles with 1 out by Dunston and Martinez, and the Sarge, as they call him, Gary Matthews, coming up. And the Cubs trying to get off the floor here in the 7th. Whitey Herzog is not sending Mike Rourke out to the mound. Whitey Herzog is heading for the plate umpire himself.
He's made his mind up, and I think he's going to make that double switch.
He will. Jose Aquindo will come into right field and bat 9th, and Bill Dawley will go in John Mara's spot and bat 7th. So it is 4-2 Cardinals, but with 1 out. The Cubs have the tying runs at 1st and 3rd. We'll be back. All right, the Cubs trying to come roaring back in the 7th inning. Bill Dawley picking up the pieces for Lee Tunnell. Runners at 1st and 3rd, 1 out in the 7th. 4-2 St. Louis, and Gary Matthews. Ball 1. They're checking no swing, says Jerry Crawford. 1-0. Dawley is 2-4 in 24 games. The one thing about Dawley, although it is a big ballpark and Pendleton's coming in to talk to him, but the one thing that must make Herzog slightly uneasy about Dawley, he has only worked 40 innings, and yet in 40 innings he leads the Cardinals in home runs allowed. He's allowed 8. It's a bad habit for a relief pitcher. Slider, and the count 1-1. Gary Matthews, and it's interesting to point it up, we're talking about all right-hand hitters in the dugout. He's hitting over 380 against right-handers. You know what he's hitting against left-handers? Less than 150. How do you figure that? 1-1. Another slider down and away. And he's in a hole 1-2.
Pena's setting up on that outside corner, and Dolly was able to hit it.
Matthews batting .308. On deck, the leadoff man, Paul Noche. And 3 of the sliders down and away. You would just figure he just put the glove out there.
And did you see how Pena kind of tried to decoy him on that? As he gave the sign, he was leaning inside, and as the pitch was being delivered, he set up again outside. There, look right there. There he is inside. That's why you can't ever believe a catcher. No way, even if you see him going into church.
Well, I tell you what, if you're a manager, an opposing manager, and you see how they pitched Gary Matthews that time, you write that indelibly in the book. Just gave him the breaking ball away, and he chased all 3. So a big out, a run unable to score, and here's Noche filling in a big pair of shoes. If you were not with us in the 3rd inning, Ryan Sandberg hit a slow roll at a Pendleton, a high throw to first. Sandberg hit first base with his right foot. It skidded and then dug into the dirt, and he sprained his ankle.
Vin, Dom Scala is the advanced scout for Pittsburgh, and he's writing right now feverishly, and I'll guarantee you that's what he's writing.
Oh, yeah, no 2 ways about it. I mean, Matthews never got anything but the slider in the same spot, and they were all balls. There wasn't one strike until he swung at him. So the rookie Noche is hitting, and not a Manny Trio, for instance. Noche, no home runs, no RBIs. Trio has 4 home runs and 10 RBIs. Another strike. So Dolly comes in and just keeps on one breaking ball after another. He disposes of Matthews and puts the heat on the rookie. 1-2. What a difference having Noche with no home runs, no RBIs. Sandberg would be up there now with 11 home runs and 33 RBIs in the dirt.
That's pretty good play by Mr. Pena, and he kept dancing there on his knees.
Every time I look at him, I think of Jose Ferrer and Toulouse-Lautrec. I mean, watch him.
Right?
This is the Toulouse-Lautrec trot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
On his knees. Yep.
All right, Deuce is wild again. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. Cardinals leading by 2. Chased another breaking ball. I don't think Dolly's thrown a strike yet, and he has struck out Matthews and Noche. It's 4-2 St. Louis. Here's another edition of the 7th inning stretch.
Gatorade Thirst Quencher presents.
And there aren't too many shirts.
Leading off catcher Tony Pena.
Here's to you. Dickie Knowles will now come in from the Cub bullpen after a great bit of relief pitching by Bill Dawley. And Knowles' job is to hold the Cardinals and hope that Mumphrey, Dawson, Durham, and company can play catch-up. Knowles will be pitching to Tony Pena. Ball 1. Knowles with 2 saves and 4 wins. Pena today is 2 for 2. Right. Tony hitting .253. Knowles has done very well. Looks like he's kissing his bat. He loves it. Well, he doesn't love his bat. He likes it very much.
He talks to it. He said, come on, baby, get a hit. Come on, a lot of hits in there.
1-1. Breaking ball in the dirt. Now, if you love your bat, you wouldn't go get it in the dirt chasing that pitch.
Well, he's the first player I ever saw get emotionally involved with the bat.
I've heard of, they tell stories of ball players taking their bats to bed and all that kind of stuff. That's the first kiss I've seen applied.
Yeah. That'll be in the record book. Most times bats kissed by player in one game.
Daytime. 1-2. Tony fouled it off. He's still up there. 1-2 the count to Tony Pena. Leading off matters in the bottom of the 7th. Cardinals 4 and the Cubs 2.
That foul tip went right off Jody Davis's mask, and as Pena walked by, he tapped him as if to say, hang in there, pal.
Yeah, at least there's somebody else who cares.
That's right, he cares. Umpire did what he always does. He checks the ball.
Tony Pena, his mother had a lot to do with his baseball development. Ground ball back to third. Nice hop for Moreland. And a bad throw by Moreland. That is one of the weaknesses of the Cubs in trying to succeed on AstroTurf, moving Keith Moreland to third base. That is the 14th error that Keith Moreland has made at third base. And after seeing a bad play, let's look at a good one. Last night, Leon Durham hitting against Bob Forrest. Jose Oquendo in right field, and watch this catch. In a sense, a game saver in a tough 2-1 game at the time, keeping Mumphrey at second base. Now Jose in the game in right field and at the plate. And the bunt. The only play is to first base, so the Cardinals are in business. An error and a sacrifice. So the MVP, the most versatile player, that's the award given Oquendo by his manager, Whitey Herzog. He's done everything they have asked of him and then some.
Red Schoendienst was really singing his praises. He said, boy, the guy that's really done it all for us. And I said, Oquendo, he said, you bet.
He's from Puerto Rico. Meanwhile, Gene Michael out to the mound to talk to Dickie Knowles. The error by Keith Moreland, and of course, Moreland has never played third base well. That is to say, in his career prior to today, his fielding average at third base was less than 900. I mean, that's really bad. And now Keith, in trying to learn that position, has committed 14 errors this year. It's tough, and he is hot about it.
He's thinking about it.
Well, he's more than that. He just referred to the puppy of a female dog. Well, here's Vince Coleman. Twice out to the box, once bunting, singled in the 5th inning. And the fake by Knowles. Coleman with the infield single, trying to pick up Pena at second base. Coleman has hit in 10 straight. Four-2 Cardinals, bottom of the 7th.
Dunston was trying to give somebody a signal, I think, to catcher Jody Davis. But I tell you, late in this game, they've been out there a long time. A little tough to jockey that runner back.
If Pena was a jockey, he looks like he fell off the horse. Right. He will not win the neatness award, but Tony's been everywhere. He has scored once, and he's been on base 3 for 3. He caused Sutcliffe to commit a balk in the 5th inning. Breaking ball on the corner, and Noche was breaking to the bag to cover on that pitch.
And they had him too, because as Noche broke to the bag and kind of skidded, and he's telling him right now, take a look, Pena was breaking towards third.
Nick Leyva shepherding Pena from the third base coaching box. Rich Hacker coaching at first. 1 out, 7th inning. 4-2 Cardinals. Dickie Knowles trying to get Coleman. On deck, Ozzie Smith. Boy, you talk about bat control. That was a breaking ball that was almost in Jody Davis' mitt. And he waited so long before he hit the ball, he grounded it right into the Cardinal dugout. In the Cub dugout. What's this? It's already past him.
He was sure it was going to be called a strike, and he does what all hitters do when that happens.
And guess
Billy
who he hit
Williams
it to?
got it, yeah.
You got to look out. He'll hit it back at you.
And it would be a line drive. Won't be a bloop.
0-2 to Vince. And another pickoff. I guess I'll never be able to see Vince Coleman without thinking of the tarp roller here that almost ate him alive. And that frightening moment during the league championship series in '85. That's where it is now. But when it came up that fateful early evening, it swallowed him up. Curve ball. I think he just did take it outside. Hitting 296.
At one time in the clubhouse, the three guys talking were Tudor, Coleman, and Danny Cox. You talk about three guys with freak injuries.
Wow. Just missed with the breaking ball. Two and two, the count to Vince Coleman. 4-2. Cardinals leading the Cubs in the seventh. One away. Michael peering out, hoping that Knowles can do the job. And it's hit into left field. Base hit. Charging is Mumphrey, so they will hold Pena at third. The throw allowed to go through, but a good deep by Moreland to prevent Coleman from going to second base. So Vince Coleman is 2 for 4 as he singles to left, and that'll bring up Ozzie Smith.
He just serves that ball. It's the outside part of the plate, and that's what they've been wanting him to do. And Pena rounds third base, but he's going to be holding all the way. You can see him going to his fake attempt, but Lavia Nick was going to hold him all the way.
In the wake of the French Open and in thinking about the Wimbledon tennis coming up, that was just a dink. Coleman just stiff-wristed a little flare into left field, and now Ozzie Smith 0 for 3, but Coleman at first, and Knowles is really in a jam. If the Cardinals use their great leg speed in the 5th and 6th inning, look out now. Coleman with 40 stolen bases. Well, you're really in a spot. Big league hitter at the plate. Great base stealer at first, and balks being called all the time.
You want to signal for a fair catch.
At least. Nice save by Durham, that pitch in the dirt.
You know, I can think of first basemen who I played against that when they get a throw like that would just put a tag on him, run a little bit hard, like jab him in the leg.
Around the knee or anything to take something out of him.
Sting him a little.
He's got a pretty good lead. And they're squeezing, and it's a perfect squeeze. A great squeeze by Ozzie Smith. Scoring is Pena, who reached on the error by Moreland. So if you give the Cardinals an inch, they take it all, and it is 5-2 St. Louis. Perfectly executed, not a thing Gene Michael can do about it.
Nothing but watch it. It's really out of page 99. Ball is bunted on the ground, past the pitcher. Durham has to feel it, no play at the plate, and very close at first base. Just watch it.
He almost beat the play at first.
Yes,
it
sir.
took a quick throw from Leon Durham to Paul Noche.
You couldn't diagram that any better.
So we were talking about Ozzie Smith, how he led the National League last year in RBIs without a home run. He is leading the National League in RBIs without a home run this year. And that's just another reason how he does it. Now, don't misunderstand me. We're not saying he's leading the league in RBIs. We're saying of all the players in the league without a home run, he is leading. He has 32, and he had 64 last year. 0-1 to count to Tommy Hurd. Pickoff play, wrong side of the bag.
Boy, if you had to use one word to describe the Cardinal attack, it's manufacture.
So Coleman, who was bunted to second, waiting to be picked up with 2 out. Cardinals with 1 in the second, 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th have run their way to a 5-2 lead. It is somewhat demoralizing for the Cubs because the Cardinals have beaten Chicago 5 of the last 6. The Cubs know that if the Cardinals win this one, they will have beaten them 8 out of 11. The Cubs will then have lost 3 straight for the first time this year, and worst of all, they will be 5 games back. So for the Cubs, they're going to have to shake themselves in the 8th and 9th innings.
Coleman got hit with that throw, as you see him shaking his wrist. But the thing that this does, it just keeps those infielders on edge, and when you've got them on edge, the percentage obviously comes over to your side.
1-1 to count to Tommy Hurd. 2 balls, 1 strike. Todd Worrell begins to stretch out a little bit in the Cardinal bullpen. Fastball ran away. 3-1 to count.
You know the feeling you get playing the Cardinals, Vin, as we see Worrell, is like somebody keeps turning the knob to turn up the pressure a little more, a little more, a little more.
Yeah, they're not going to hammer you over the head. They're not a home run hitting team. It's like being eaten to death by a moth. A little nip here, a little bite there, and all of a sudden your head falls off. 3-1 to count to Tommy Hurd. Lined into left, ting-a-ling, and here comes Coleman. The throw, not nearly in time. So it is 6-2 St. Louis. And of course, the guy who would love to forget this inning is not Gene Michael, not the 49,000 in the stand, not even Vince Coleman. The guy I'd like to forget it is Keith Moreland at third base. Moreland, who fielded the ground ball by Pena, had plenty of time against the Cardinal catcher and threw it away, and he's been muttering to himself ever since. 6-2 St. Louis. Right. Now, if this game were played in Wrigley Field, which would be baseball's answer to the Rose Bowl, the Cubs, you'd figure, could explode. But in this big ballpark, they're in a lot of trouble. 1-1. Although, to counteract that theory, the Cubs would point to the fact that they are under 500 at home and 8 games above 500 on the road. Jack Clark struck out, walked, and popped up, trying to apply the coup de grace. There goes the runner. Check swing for a strike. The throw sailed away. So Tommy Hurd steals second base.
Jody Davis didn't have a chance. Now, was he set to make a throw? He thought with Clark up there, they'll be hitting away, and Hurd was able to take a lead because Knowles wasn't watching them that close, and the throw really was a sailor. He didn't have a good grip on it, did not throw with the seams, and you could just see it sail off.
That's 3 stolen bases against the Cubs. The Cardinals now have 90 stolen bases this year. Worrell has stopped throwing. Ricky Horton is now throwing in the Cardinal pen.
And if there's one thing, as I said before, that demoralizes a ball club is when the other club is just running on you. It's arm against legs, and Cardinals obviously winning that battle.
On their way to over 200. The Cardinals are the high-flying St. Louis team, and that's ball 4 to Clark, and it brings up Willie McGee. McGee will be the 7th man to come to the plate, and there is nothing Gene Michael can do about it. Willie McGee struck out. Mumphrey took an extra base hit away from him, and then he singled to drive in a run, Hurd, in the 6th inning. Right. Foul off third, back into the seats, and the count 0-2.
When you build a ball club like the Cardinals have built, speed really never has that slump. And you say, well, they don't get on base, they can't run. No, but they can still play pretty good defense, and that means pretty good pitching, because pitching and defense hand in hand, and you should not go into that long losing streak.
Dickie Knowles is trying to get an out here and get out of the inning. It's 6-2 Cardinals in the 7th. Ground ball into right field. Base hit. Tommy Ahern will score. 7-2 St. Louis. And the bird has flown.
And that ball looked like it was out of the strike zone. It was an artificial surface hit. Once it hit that surface, she just scooted right through there. And Tommy Ahern, running all the way, picks up another big run. Here's the pitch. Not a strike. It was out of the strike zone. You see Jody was even down on his knees trying to block it, but once it hit that artificial surface, right through the infield it went.
So Terry Pendleton, the 8th man to come up in the 7th inning, and the Cardinals have broken it wide open. At the end of 4 innings, the Cubs led 2-1, but it has been all St. Louis since. 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, and 3 in the 7th. Hall in the Cub pen. Mike Mason asked to play. Had a lot of people up. 7-2 St. Louis. When the Cubs hit in the 8th inning, Jerry Mumphrey, Andre Dawson, and Leon Durham. You have McGee at first and Clark at second. Terry Pendleton homered in the 2nd inning, grounded out in the 5th, lined out on a great diving catch by Paul Noche in the 6th inning. 3-0, taken all the way. 3-1. So the Cardinals with a chance to increase their lead over the Cubs to 5 games. Ball 4 to Terry Pendleton, and the bases are loaded, and a somewhat downcast Gene Michael making his way out to the mound.
And I'll tell you, the infielders pretty well tell the story. Moreland, hand on his knees. Dunston has his glove off. So does Noche, Bull Durham. It's hot. It's been a long inning. The Cardinals have been running them right into the ground. It's very difficult to stay up and really keep it pumped.
We talked about at the beginning of the game that today was an anniversary. This day in Cubs history, they acquired Rick Sutcliffe. 1 year ago, they had Gene Michael take over as the manager. What an anniversary.
This whole situation is running me ragged. I mean, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have thought that a phone system could hurt my business. So
the memories are waiting.
Well, I'm sure the Cubs wouldn't think about it, but it is actually cooling off a little bit. Down on the field, it's only a little over 90. Mike Mason will test the Heat and the Cardinals now with the bases loaded and Bill Dawley at the plate. Mason lost to Tunnel last weekend. Now he's in here mopping up. High fly ball to dead center. Dave Martinez is there, and mercifully the last out of the inning as 9 men come to the plate. 3 come home and 3 are left. But it was the first play, a little ground ball to Keith Moreland, and he threw offline, and that was the beginning of the end for the Cubs. year-old Keith Moreland, a picture of dejection. His error opening up the gates for that 3-run 7th. But of course, he's done a great job day in and day out for the Cubs, whether he's playing the outfield or as he is now playing third base. Now we'll see if the Cubs can get off the floor against Bill Dawley with Jerry Mumphrey, Andre Dawson, and Leon Durham. And he promptly opens it up with a single to center. So Mumphrey, a line drive base hit, and that will bring up Andre Dawson.
Right fielder Andre Dawson.
So Dawson can't do it himself, not with the team down by 5, but he can certainly lift the gloom in the dugout.
Saw another theory on the number of home runs, and it reminded me when Dawson put on his gloves. They say it's the thin-handled bats. And the reason the gloves come into play is that the thin-handled bat with the gloves make it feel like a thick-handled bat, but it remains thin-handled and they get more bat speed.
All right, we'll see what he does with that 35-ounce piece of wood, and he's a little bit out in front and cued it outside at first. 0-1. We're in the 8th. The Cardinals 7 and the Cubs 2. Andre Dawson, then Leon Durham and Jody Davis. Dawson taking plenty of time getting up off the floor. 1-1.
He was starting to stride into that pitch. Watch him go into it like he thought it might be outside, and it just sails in and down he goes. I don't believe it was anything like a knockdown. The score being what it is, 7-2, you don't want to wake up the sleeping dog. And they're going to let the Cubs just play it out in the normal strains.
1-1 to Andre. Breaking ball is hit up the middle, so the Cubs trying to come back, and they get back-to-back singles by Mumphrey and Dawson, and that'll bring up Leon Durham. Ricky Horton, the left-hander, is throwing in the Cardinal bullpen. Of course, after Durham, the only left-hand hitter in the lineup is Dave Martinez, and as we pointed out, there are no left-hand hitters on the bench. So if Whitey wants to make the move, he's going to make it right now with the left-hand hitter Leon Durham coming up. Bill Dawley has had his troubles. From 85 until recently, he was 0-11 until he beat Atlanta, and he's on his way out now. Leon Durham, first ball hitting, hits into a force play, 5-4 from Terry Pendleton to Tommy Hurd. So Durham not around very long. Here's that play again. Ricky Horton starting him with a breaking ball, and it's tapped wide at third. Pendleton with the play in front of him to Hurd. The throw to first not in time. So 1 out. Runners at first and third, and Horton will now pitch to Jody Davis. Should he falter, he is backed up by Todd Worrell, who worked an inning into third last night. Comebacker, and they're going to get 1. They're going to get 2, and what a difference watching Jody Davis labor down the line. That pointed up the difference between the two teams. Speed and not to speed. 2 hits and nothing else at the end of 7.5. 7-2 St. Louis. The famous arch back of the left field wall, the gateway to the west. And the Cardinals showing the way to the National League East, leading by 4, trying to extend it to 5, and leading the Cubs 7-2 in the 8th inning.
Looks like a handle on the ballpark, like the Jolly Green Giant, or somebody's going to pick it up and carry it away.
The ever-present Tony Pena to start it off. For the Cubs, they would have to be somewhat demoralized in just about every area, even offensively. In the 7th inning, trying to come back, Dunston and Martinez singled. Dawley came in and struck out Matthews and Noche. In the 8th inning, they get singles by Mumphrey and Dawson, and Horton comes in and stops Durham and gets Davis to hit into a double play. So Gene has been stifled offensively. His defense cost him 3, and has he been burned by the Cardinal speed? Pena 2 for 3. Single to left, single to short when the infield was up, and has been aboard on an error. Now everybody but Jack Clark is on the outside of the candy store looking in. Clark has struck out and popped up and walked twice. 1-2. Hit to center. Martinez has a bead on it. 1 away. Whitey Herzog wheeling and dealing. He has used Tunnel, Dawley, and Horton. Considering the fact that he has lost John Tudor, the slow start of Todd Worrell, the injuries to Tommy Hurd and to Tony Pena, Daly out, Lottie out, What a remarkable job of managing. Of course, he did a great job last year to get the Cardinals to third. Line drive, base hit. Cut off by Martinez, but Oquendo has himself a stand-up double. Jose Oquendo, a double to right center. It's been Sutcliffe, Knowles, and Mason. Detroit leading Boston 6-4, and they have just gotten the last out. So Detroit knocks off Boston 6-4. Tigers began the day 7.5 back of Toronto. Boston began the day 11 back. San Diego leading the Giants 4-1. The Giants started the day even with Cincinnati. Cincinnati is at home with Atlanta tonight. Line drive, base hit to center by Coleman. Here comes Oquendo. Martinez throw is a good throw, and it got away from Jody. And down to second goes Coleman. Davis was in a haste to catch the throw and then make the tag, and he left the ball behind him. He came up with a handful of empty, and the run is in.
Jody tries to backhand the ball. Martinez's throw is a strong one. Instead of going out and getting the ball and coming back, he tried to backhand it, and it cost him. And the other thing it does, Coleman goes to second base. Double play is lost.
And it is 8-2 St. Louis. And with Coleman at second base, here is Ozzie Smith turning around to hit right-handed. Ozzie 0 for 3, squeezed in a run in the 7th inning. 1 out. When the Cubs come up in the 9th, it will be Moreland, Dunston, and Martinez. Foul away. 1-1. So the Cardinals have been unstoppable since the 5th inning. They had 1 in the 2nd inning, and then 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, 3 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th to break it wide open. Here it is. And that's hit into right field, base hit. It'll be the 3rd straight hit, and they had no reason to send Coleman in, not on Andre Dawson's arm. So Knowles and Mason have not proven to be very stoppable, and they give up hits. Knowles 2 runs and 3 hits. Mason now has given up a double and 2 singles, and Ed Lynch goes down to the pen. And Michael, realizing, of course, down by 6, there's no way he's going to waste Lee Smith. Pitching coach Herm Starrett alongside it, Gene. Tommy Herr has lined out and grounded out, doubled and singled. On deck is the hungriest bird of them all, Jack Clark, with 12 hits, now 13. Every guy in the lineup has a base hit except Clark. Hit to center field for a base hit. Ozzie Smith will hold at second. Coleman scores. 9-2 Cardinals. And when you see this game, you realize the truth in George Will's remark about Cub fans are 90% scar tissue, and a lot of them have decided to leave. So Gene Michael, with his club being hammered now, 9 runs, 14 hits. The Cubs 2 runs, 8 hits, 2 errors. The Cubs will go home and try to heal themselves after tomorrow's game. The Cubs have an 8-game homestand beginning Monday against the Phillies, and then the Pirates for 4. We'll be back. Well, maybe Jack Clark has been shut out today, but it's nothing like the night in Cincinnati when he was really shut out. Clark against Pat Pasillo hit one deep to center. It's a home run to everybody but Eric Davis, who reaches over the fence and takes it away. He did it twice to Jack Clark this year. So Jack has 17 home runs and was robbed of 2. That would give him 19. He'd be right up there behind guess who? Eric Davis and Andre Dawson. Oh, also Jack, however, and he'd be the first to admit it, he had a grand slam home run in Houston where just about everybody who saw it thought it was foul except the umpire. So they taketh and they giveth, and here's Jack. Walked twice, struck out, popped up. Ed Lynch. He is the 4th Cub pitcher.
Sweep. What the fans are hollering. Sweep.
If you are old enough in Chicago, you will remember the great chant for Bill Nicholson. Nicholson, who loved to stand at the plate, great home run hitter, and would move that bat back and forth, and everybody would go swish, swish. Oh, that was great. Well, now it's sweep.
It was great, and then Big Nick would get up and take a swing and miss it, and that mask would come 4 inches off your face with the breeze. He really took a big cut.
Tomorrow, trying to prevent a sweep, Scott Sanderson will be going for the Cubs, and Danny Cox will be going for the Cardinals. Ozzie Smith at second, Tommy Herr at first, Jack Clark at the plate, 1-1, and that's fouled away. 1-2.
You know, people are going to see the box score and see 14 base hits, 9 runs, and figured it was a blowout. It really wasn't. There was some great pitching done by Tunnell, especially in that 6th inning with all those curveballs of Jody Davis and the way the Cardinals manufactured runs. The game got away in the 7th and 8th inning, but I tell you, the Cardinals have sent a message throughout the National League at least. They can make runs when they need to.
1-2, and Clark rolls it up along third, foul. In looking at the Cardinals' work this year, they have posted particularly good numbers in Chicago. They have beaten the Cubs at Wrigley Field 5 out of 6 times. That's their best mark on the road anywhere. So if Herzog will be 5 in front of the Cubs, he's done it by beating them head-to-head. If the Cardinals win today, they will have beaten the Cubs 8 of 11, and the difference is the 5. 2-2 to Jack. Ed Lynch, big kid out of Brooklyn. His dad at one time an usher in Ebbets Field, originally signed by the Mets. Foul ball.
He changes speeds very well, Lynch, and you have to snicker because Jack Clark was a bit in front of that one.
Yeah, a little bit.
He about pulled it into the Cub dugout.
So Ed Lynch trying to get Clark with 1 out. Smith at second, Herr at first. 9-2 St. Louis. So 3-2 with 1 out. Clark, as far as his numbers are concerned, pays the price. We told you he is striking out actually more this year at this stage of the year than in any year of his career. We'll see what that means with the runner. Of course, remember, they're leading by 7. They're not going. And he reaches for a ball, and it's a fly ball to center.
Right before the pitch was made, Herr at first base looked over at Leyva and kind of motioned, am I running? And Nick just held up the 1-1, the number of outs. And when the pitch was made, Tommy broke off first, but Ozzie was holding it second. So very wisely, watching the lead runner, he held. But he was ready to go.
So still 2 on, 2 out, and Willie McGee the batter. McGee is struck out, robbed of a hit by Jerry Mumphrey, and then twice single to right to pick up RBIs, 2 for 4. To repeat for the Cubs in the 9th inning, Keith Moreland, Sean Dunston, Dave Martinez. Changeup hit to the left of Dunston. He'll bring it to the bag. So they get the force play, and the Cardinals settle for 2 more and leave 2. At the end of 8, the Cardinals 9 and the Cubs 2. The Cubs are losing, but perhaps their biggest loss of the day occurred in the 3rd inning. With Martinez at 3rd, Ryne Sandberg hit a slow ground ball to Terry Pendleton. Pendleton's off balance and hurried throw was high. Sandberg will hit the bag with his right foot. It skids over the bag, sticks in the ground. He twists his right ankle and goes down and out. Sandberg is out with a sprained right ankle, and for how long, no one knows. A tremendous blow to the Cubs and their aspiration, and it is no mystery to know that in the 3rd inning, when Sandberg was carried off the field, the Cubs were leading 2-1, and they have not been heard from since. And we can only hope that Ryne will heal quickly and get back, but a sprain really leaves you up in the air.
Guidi came home in that 7th inning, too, when his spot was up there with a couple of men on.
And Paul Noche came up with 2 on, 2 out, and struck out. Keith Moreland grounded to short twice, popped up 0 for 3. 9-2 St. Louis. And Ricky Horton trying to put the lid on it now and take it back to the clubhouse. In there, 2-1. And he just reached for a pitch down and away and bangs it into right field. So Moreland going the other way gets a base hit.
Shortstop, Sean
and the batter, Sean Dunston. Sean singled to center, scored a run, robbed of a hit on a great diving catch by Pendleton, and then Sean singled again in the 7th. In the 7th, there was still a game going. It was 4-2 Cardinals, and with 1 out, Dunston and Martinez singled. And Dawley turned around and struck out Gary Matthews and Paul Noche, and that was it. And then the Cardinals came back with 3 to break it wide open. Line drive to left field. That's a base hit. So 1st and 2nd with nobody out. The Cubs hanging tough. Down 4-2. Had 2 singles in the 7th. Down 7-2. Had leadoff singles by Mumphrey and Dawson in the 8th. And now down 9-2. They came right back with singles by Moreland and Dunston. So they're not about to just fold up. And here's Martinez. And Bob Dernier is now stepping in for Martinez. Martinez was 2 for 3, but he was left-handed. So they go to Dernier now against the left-hand pitcher. Right. Manny Trio is out on deck to bat for Lynch. So the Cubs trying to come back somehow, some way.
Pena got a cramp in his leg from sitting down like he did. He's had to call time. There you see him kind of stretching it.
Right there. Right hamstring.
It's hard to hurt your leg there when you've been walking on your knees all afternoon.
Moreland and Dunston on the base paths. And that's hit foul down the right field line, out of play. You know, the Cubs have hit 12 home runs this year in the 9th inning. I mean, they are accustomed to making noise in the 9th. 0-2. And that's hit right back on a line. They've got one, they've got two. So Dernier lines into the double play. 1-3 if you're scoring. That erases Dunston at first. Moreland holding at second, and the batter will be Manny Trio.
Batting for the pitcher, Ed Lynch, number 19.
He was in perfect position, took a good look at second base because he knew he had an easy out at first base, and had Moreland been wandering, might have seen that kind of rare triple play.
So Manny Trio with 2 out in the 9th inning. 9-2 St. Louis. You know, he might very well be lost in the shuffle, but when you think about it, in the 7th inning, Bill Dawley single-handedly turned the inning around and took a lot of steam or air out of the Cub balloon. First and third, 1 out. It was 4-2 St. Louis. The Cubs were ready to make a move, and he struck out Matthews and Noche. And then when Dawley fumbled in the 8th inning, they went to Horton, and Durham hit into a force play, and Davis hit into a double play. It's 9-2 St. Louis in the 9th inning with 2 out. One and two. And the chant continues here. Sweep. But of course that has to wait until tomorrow. Scott Sanderson and Danny Cox. The Cardinal fans not worrying about tomorrow. They're enjoying today. The Cub fans, they'll have to wait for tomorrow for a rebuttal. Little pop fly. Going out for it is Tommy Herr. And he'll make the catch, and that's it. The Cardinals are 5 in front of the Cubs. The Cubs, for the first time this year, lose 3 in a row. They were the only team in the National League not to have lost 3 in a row. The Cardinals have beaten the Cubs 8 of 11 to justify their 5-game lead in the National League East. And so Scott Sanderson has a big job tomorrow when he goes against Danny Cox. 9 runs, 14 hits, and no errors. 2 runs, 9 hits, no errors for the Cubs. The winning pitcher, Lee Tunnell, after 6 1/3 innings. And Tunnell is 3-1, 1-0, 2-2 lifetime. The losing pitcher, Rick Sutcliffe, who is 8-3, 1-2 this year, 6-6 lifetime. Andre Dawson had a couple of base hits, but one man couldn't do it. One man who certainly did, Vince Coleman, spearheading the attack for the Cardinals. He had 3 hits, drove in 2, scored 2. Coleman's 5th 3-hit game of the year. Everyone in the Cardinal lineup but Jack Clark had a base hit. And of course the Cardinals with 3 stolen bases also showed speed in other areas, notably the base hit by John Morris when he legged it into a double. So this week's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game is Vince Coleman. And Miller Lite happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Vince Coleman to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. And certainly, Joe, speed reigned supreme.
It certainly did. And you check the box score and speed will show up as far as stolen bases. I know as a ball player you always did that. But it doesn't really tell the story with these Cardinals because the defense based on speed in this big ballpark. And the one thing that they showed today and showed it so well that they can manufacture the run, and we don't want to keep beating on that, but when you get on, you got the defense on edge, it really shows up, and it did today.
Well, the Cardinals won it. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.